Welcome to the Space Dreamers Podcast, a Su Madre production.
You want to bring us in, Heather?
I can. What do you want me to say?
Whatever you feel like saying.
I guess if you want to.
Do it.
Just say hello. It's just a regular hello.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Welcome to episode
I think 10.
10. Ooh, double digits.
That's right.
Welcome to the first of the double-digit episodes
Yes.
of the Space Dreamers podcast.
The Space Dreamers Podcast. All right.
Talking about Reach for Tomorrow.
Yes. This is a collection of short stories, so we are not doing a novel today, but that's okay. Reach for Tomorrow was released in 1956, the same year as the book that we talked about last time, which was The City and the Stars, which is a novel. This one is merely a collection of short stories. As we said, Reach for Tomorrow. I believe 12. Let me check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12 stories in this little collection. Okay, Heather, why don't you do me a favor and just describe the cover?
All right, we've got a space station and a planet. What is this planet? Maybe, I don't know. And we've got some people doing, I don't remember what that thing's called.
EVA.
EVA.
Yes. What does that planet look like to you?
It's red. It's like orange.
So which planet do you think it is?
Mars?
No. The title, so that cover, that illustration is taken directly from the story Jupiter 5.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's
Jupiter. Okay. Cool.
But yeah.
That was one of, what did I say? One of 3 stories I didn't read, so that's why I didn't know. That's
okay. So I haven't even introduced myself. My name is Jared Parisi. I'm your host, as always. I'm with a frequent co-host today, Heather. Heather, say hello, even though you already did.
Hello.
All right. So, as I said, we're here to discuss Reach for Tomorrow. We're just going to discuss a few of the stories, depending on which ones were the most interesting to us. We also have a movie to talk about.
And people.
Oh, yeah. And also, last time, during the episode for The City and the Stars, I had recently joined a Facebook group about Arthur C. Clarke, so I just made a post that was like, just tell me what should we discuss? What are points in this novel that we should touch on in our episode? And a few people commented, and it was cool, and we talked about what they said. So for this one, I just said in the group that I'm recording this episode about this collection of short stories. I listed the short stories, and I asked the members to just comment which ones were their favorites, because I'm just curious. So let's take a peek at that. I know which one is my definite favorite. So of all the ones you read, Heather, which one is your favorite if you had to pick one?
If I had to pick one, let me look back over my notes here. I liked The Awakening. And what else did I like? Oh, Trouble with the Natives. That one was good. That one was funny.
Dude, yes.
I like that
so
one.
So funny. Okay.
That one was good.
Yeah. So, all right. I'm excited to get to that one. But, okay. So, looking at the comments here, I have David says, A Walk in the Dark.
Oh, that was a good one, too. I did like that one.
And he said, I'd forgotten that one. What a brilliant idea. And yet again, the Clarke killer last line.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely likes to...
That punchline ending.
Yeah, or even just... I feel like now every time I read one of his stories, I'm like, something is going to happen. Like, there's going to be a curveball at the end of this.
Yeah, and it's almost occasionally to his detriment, because sometimes when there isn't a curveball or there isn't a punchline ending, me personally, I'm left slightly disappointed.
Well, sometimes when I'm reading the stories, I'm a little bit like, I don't, totally get what's happening here, but I always assume I probably will kind of get it by the end.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Same thing. Like that could be a bad thing if I'm expecting an explanation.
Yeah.
And I don't get one.
But then the other issue could be that the punchline just doesn't land necessarily, but at the same time, so we can get into it, but I don't love A Walk in the Dark. And it's because I don't think that punchline, I don't think that ending is very good. Okay, well, let's real quick get into it.
Well, I liked it, but I also wrote a lot of questions about it. 'Cause it didn't it sort of didn't seem like it made sense because it was like he was walking in pitch black, but how could you possibly walk anywhere like that? Like that doesn't actually make sense, I don't think.
Yeah.
And B, so he couldn't see the moon at all. Like I cannot imagine being outside and having it be so dark that you cannot see anything.
He's definitely on a different planet, right?
No, I know, but he says something. I wrote in here that he couldn't see the moon.
There's probably is no moon.
I feel like they said something about it in there.
Okay.
Or maybe they didn't. I don't know. Maybe they said something about stars. I'm not sure.
The idea is that it's pitch black.
Right, which I had a little bit of a hard time picturing what that would be like. Like I've never been outside. I've been inside somewhere where it's been pitch black.
Yeah.
But I guess it's like if you cannot see the stars and you cannot see the moon, I guess it would be pitch black.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit hard for me to picture.
If you're on a planet that has no humans living on it besides the ones who just landed in a rocket.
Right.
You'd have no light pollution.
Wait, I want to find this because I feel like we should talk about the very ending of it. So basically the guy's walking and he's remembering what someone else told him.
Yeah.
About hearing something in the dark.
I feel like it's just so standard. It's just monsters.
It's creepy.
In the darkness. And he's walking in the dark. And then at the end, what is the punchline? That the monster is in front of him instead of behind him?
Maybe it's just been stalking him. Maybe there's more than one. And they're surrounding him.
I don't love it. I don't know.
I don't know. I liked it. I'm trying to find it here. Where's the end? Where's the very end of it?
Isn't in front of him italics?
Ahead of him.
Oh, ahead of him?
It's in italics, yeah.
Why
the
is
rattle, for there could be no mistaking the rattle of monstrous claws in the darkness ahead of him. Maybe it's a metaphor for something. Maybe it's you're afraid of what's behind you, but actually there could be something in a different direction that's scary. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, so basically, I feel like my thoughts on that one are if I had never read a Clarke story and I read that story, I would probably think it was awesome.
Yeah.
But again, it's just an issue. It's when you're just constantly reading the same author.
Yeah.
If they occasionally repeat things, then that thing won't be effective.
Right. Well, it says here that he was almost to the end of his journey, wherever he was going. And it says, but the gods have always been unfair to man, and now they were enjoying their little jest, for there could be no mistaking. So maybe it's he'd gone so far, he was almost there, and that's when this monster was going to get him.
He just imagined, I guess, the danger was behind him, when in reality it was still ahead.
Yeah, or maybe, I guess I don't really totally, is he maybe oh, wait, that is not true. Maybe the guy, maybe didn't believe the guy that told him about it, so he was convincing himself the whole time he was walking, and he was scared that there weren't monsters.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know?
Well, yeah. So that person said that, but then another guy, also named David, also named A Walk in the Dark.
Oh, interesting.
But he actually listed 3. He said Rescue Party, Jupiter 5, and A Walk in the Dark. Which you didn't read Rescue Party or Jupiter 5, right?
Yeah.
That's okay. Of those 3, I would have to choose Jupiter 5 as my favorite. Rescue Party, I thought Rescue Party was pretty good, but I feel like it kind of just went on a little too long. Okay, let's see. Someone named Hadrian says, as stories, The Fires Within or The Parasite, because the latter is such an un-Clarke story. They say Jupiter 5 is interesting from a historical perspective with its obvious influences on both 2001: A Space Odyssey and Rendezvous with Rama. However, I like to dramatize a story when I'm reading it, imagining how I would adapt it for radio, for screen. As I read, The Fires Within and The Parasite have the greatest potential in that respect. Okay, so this person is saying they like to visualize what they're reading.
Yeah, which I think, I like to do that too.
Yeah.
Which is why some of these stories are hard for me, because sometimes I'm just like, I don't get what this... You know what's weird, though? I feel like The Fires Within was a hard one for me to get a picture of it in my mind. So that's funny.
You mean like specifically like whatever's buried, or just the story itself?
So that's the one where they go down into the core. Yeah. And he said he could like see a picture, and I was having a hard time understanding what that picture would look like.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree.
Or maybe it's a video.
Well, I think it's like, no, you know what it is? Okay, remember not the first scene. Remember the first scene, the classic scene in Jurassic Park when Sam Neill scares the little kid, and he has the computer, and he touches it and it breaks.
Okay.
Remember? She's like, you touched it.
Yeah.
And then he has the claw, and he's like, maybe they'd slash you here.
Ooh.
So anyway, the thing... That scene opens with it doing like he holds like a thing over the dirt, and it's like boom, and it sends like a sound, I think, down there, and it bounces back like a sonar image.
Well, I mean, I get the fact that it's sonar.
Yeah, so I think that's what you remember when you see in that scene, like the velociraptors, like the skeleton.
Yeah,
I think it would look like that. But even so, it's still difficult to imagine.
I have other things. There were other things about that story that were hard for me to imagine too. Like, and maybe I just was interpreting it wrong, but there were creatures who could go through rock. Like, I just didn't really get that, because like down in the core or whatever, like however far down in Earth they were going, it sounded like it was just solid. Yeah. There was no. So I have a really hard time picturing, imagining anything being able to move through that.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's interesting that this person said that they imagine. How would you ever put that on film? You know what I mean? Something moving through rock.
Well, I think one of the things that is really cool about, especially hard science fiction, is that most hard science fiction novels or stories or whatever acknowledge that and I know we're talking about like subterranean creatures, not aliens, but if we met aliens or subterranean creatures, we wouldn't be able to recognize them or comprehend even what we're looking at. Most likely. Yeah. Like if we meet aliens, they're not going to look like the way we picture them.
Right.
They probably won't even be recognizable. So, yes, I agree. It's hard to picture a creature or a living thing that is able to move through rock, but I think it's cool just to imagine. It's almost like you said, I don't know, it's weird because when I think of The Fires Within, I don't remember any characters. I don't remember their names. I just remember the implications and that realization where one of the characters realizes I'm looking at a man-made structure that is buried 30 miles below the surface of the earth. Which that means that humans didn't do that because humans have never been that deep.
Right.
So personally, I don't remember the details. I don't know how you would film it, but the implications and the lasting impression is what I associate with like that being such a good story.
Well, no, and I like the story, and I'm not saying that person is like wrong for saying that they like, because I also really like to do that. Like I very much like to picture stories in my head. And it's just funny because this one to me was like, I specifically, I think I even wrote it somewhere here. Like it's hard for me to understand what they're seeing.
Right.
But I guess like it's hard to understand sonar. I mean, I guess because that's not the way that we like see things.
Yeah.
It's a way...
You're basically seeing with sound.
Right. So, I mean, I guess, like, the very base of that story is already something that's kind of hard for me to, like, fully grasp.
Yeah.
I get it. I know, like, I know what it is, but it's harder to, like, picture that or something.
Yeah, I agree. So, either way, The Fires Within reminded me of that movie, The Core. Remember that movie with Aaron Eckhart? Stanley Tucci?
Oh, man.
Hilary Swank?
I don't know if I ever saw that movie.
It's not very good. But it's
got a good
yeah.
cast.
The first time I ever saw Stanley Tucci was that movie.
Oh, gosh. He's so good. Is he good in that?
Oh, he's so funny. He's like
Who does he
comic
play?
relief. Okay, he plays... Okay, so it's like... You have like these two like professors who are super smart, but they're just like lowly professors.
Okay.
And they team up with this scientist who's like really a celebrity. He's like a personality. He's a genius, but he's like a personality and a celebrity, and that's Stanley Tucci.
Ah.
So he's just like a...
Want to watch it just for that.
Kind of just a dick. And like somebody at one point, you know, because no one, even now in real life, we don't know what the core of the earth looks like. There's no way to know. So he's like, they're speculating like, oh, when we get there, like, how are we gonna? Because what they say is that the core of the Earth stops spinning. So like they say the core of the Earth is like a spinning, like molten metal, and if it's like the engine of the Earth, it's what drives our electromagnetic like field and atmosphere and all that shit. So it stops. So they have to go and restart it with nukes.
Oh boy,
obviously. So anyway, there's a part where they're speculating like when we get there, like what if it's too thick to travel through? Like what if we can't use the bombs or the bombs aren't enough? Stanley Tucci just goes, and what if the core is made of cheese?
Oh.
It's just like,
But that was the cool thing that this story made me think about, because I was like, well, I don't know, like the core of the earth. Like I don't even think about that. The fact that the earth is like, it's just crazy to think about it.
I know. I'm pretty sure, at least when I was like in high school and I was aware of this fact, the deepest humans had ever dug is 7 miles. That's
why?
Like
and were we doing it for like research into
idea.
Okay. Because that is weird. I mean, that's probably something that we can't really do, like can't really research and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think they mentioned in the story too that the reason if you were a being that lived 30 miles below the Earth's surface, you would have to be able to pass through solid matter, because like they explain that when you go down deep, it's like the pressure, like similar to going to the bottom of the ocean, is very extreme. So like I don't think that you could exist like as a physical body down there. I mean, it's all speculation.
Right. But like, do you like, it's like, maybe it's like, I don't know. I mean, because you think about the animals that live under the world, but live under the ground, but they make tunnels. Yeah. So they aren't going through it. Yeah. They're just making space for themselves.
Right.
And it's like, well, I just can't picture that. You would, I don't know what that would look like.
One of the cool things, so another cool thing about any short story, even if you have that cool punchline ending, like if you're kind of led along through the story and you kind of start to assume other things, and then at the end you were wrong in your assumption, I think that's always fun. So I thought that because Clarke, even though he's science fiction, not religion based, sometimes he includes, like the story that we talked about on this podcast, the 9 billion names of God. Like, basically that story proves that God exists. So I thought they were finding hell. Oh. While I was reading that story, I legitimately thought that they were going to be like, this is hell that we found. Oh. Like a city under the earth. I thought they were going to be like, well, we found hell.
Huh. Well, and that's weird because I just probably haven't read enough of him to think that.
Yeah.
Because to me, it always seems like it's
science.
A little more like fact based. Even if it's not fact, it's.
Yeah, I mean, usually it is, but I don't know. I just thought that would be like such a cool idea. But anyway, let's see. There's one more. So this one other person, Colin, says The Parasite, Jupiter 5, A Walk in the Dark, and The Fires Within.
Okay, you know what's weird about this?
So it sounds like a lot of repeats.
All been the same. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And none of them are my favorites. How do you not say The Forgotten Enemy? I don't get it. I fucking love that story.
I don't know. I think that might have been... That was the second one. that I read.
Yeah, because I texted you and you were like, "Yeah, I read it already."
Yeah, so it was so it's like you said, it was kind of like the Midnight Sky, because it was a guy by himself, a professor.
Okay, wait.
Was he a professor?
Wait, yes, that's another thing, dude. That was the other movie I was trying to think of. Oh. That the Midnight Sky could also take place during this type of disaster. Because remember, we're watching the Midnight Sky. We're like, why is the Earth winter? Like, we don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway, like I was like, that could also be applied to that as well as sunshine. I don't know. I think that's cool. But
didn't the guy think didn't he think it was going to be that the Earth wasn't going to be covered in snow anymore? Like, wasn't there? Didn't.
So I'll take the lead on this one just because I love it so much,
okay.
and if you like, we'll just discuss the points that we come to. So like, the Forgotten Enemy, the entire time that I have been a fan of Arthur C. Clarke, my favorite story has always been and probably always will be the 9 Billion Names of God. It's a 5-page short story. It has one of the greatest final lines that completely changes everything you thought of the story leading up to that final line, and it's just totally amazing. The Forgotten Enemy, while I was reading, or right when I finished The Forgotten Enemy, I was like, this might surpass the 9 Billion Names of God for me. Wow. It's a similar length, and at the very end, you have that final line that, once again, like, so the ending of 9 Billion Names of God is basically, the final line is like lights out in the universe. Like, the whole like, nothing exists. It's like not the end of the world, it's the end of the universe.
Okay.
So, but leading up to it, you don't think that's going to happen. So it's the same thing with Forgotten Enemy. Like what you mentioned is that I think it's meant to be hopeful.
Yeah.
Leading up to the final line. So the natural disaster that leads to the state of the world in the Forgotten Enemy is, Clarke explains, and this idea alone is totally cool, even outside the story. So the Earth orbits around the sun, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the sun is on an arm of the Milky Way galaxy, which is orbiting around a black hole at the middle of the galaxy. So the idea is that our solar system is also rotating around a central thing, and that the idea that the entire solar system could be passing through a dust cloud in space, which would effectively, and what it does in the story, completely erases all heat but not light from the sun, which is a little weird, and I don't fully understand how that's possible. Like, Clarke explains it, but don't fully understand, but that's okay. It's not totally important. Yeah. The idea is that you know for the story that the Earth is being lit regularly, but there is no heat coming from the sun. So the entire Earth is like a tundra. It's just snow and just freezing cold, except at the equator. And so it's explained basically that humans are fleeing from the northern hemispheres and the southern hemisphere toward the equator, where it's just literally like the only place that you can really live anymore. And the main character is some guy, I don't really know who, giving very much...
Professor Millward.
Professor Millward is giving off some major George Clooney in The Midnight Sky vibes, because he's in London. But London is, like I said, is a tundra. It's a frozen tundra. And so he is... did they mention in this story space? Are the people in space? I can't remember.
I don't remember there being people in space, but maybe.
Well, anyway, he talks about how he keeps hearing these, like, massive, crazy booms, like big, loud explosions, like earth-shattering explosions. And, like, he doesn't know what they are, but it sounds like they're coming from the north. And he assumes that those noises are humans using atomic bombs to drive back the winter, to eradicate this winter that has taken over the earth. So again, that is a totally awesome idea. I just think it's cool. Not only that, Clarke never gives off steampunk vibes, in my opinion, but this novel, I picture like a steampunk aesthetic.
Huh.
I just picture people fighting like the winter with, I don't even know, like heat guns or something, like some with like heat coils, and just like steampunk looking shit. Like when they fire the gun, like steam comes out of the gun and they're like just trying to melt all the snow. But anyway, so he assumes, he thinks it's so weird that everyone's fleeing to the south or fleeing to the equator. Why would I be hearing humans coming from the north? I never would have expected that. But he hears these atomic bombs, these explosions coming from the north. So by the end of the story, what you find out is that those atomic the noises were not humanity reclaiming the earth. They were the glaciers reclaiming the earth. So no, in a badass steampunk fashion, humans were not reclaiming their homeland. They were losing it to the forgotten enemy of mankind, which is Ice Age.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be too cold to live if the sun wasn't giving off any heat?
Well, I think that's the idea in the story, is that eventually the equator also will be too cold to live. And I feel like he mentions
that there's people in space,
that there is actually potentially refuge in space. But I don't know.
It also seems like animals are like taking over, because there's that whole part with the polar bear.
Yes, that part was amazing.
Which is interesting because there would be other creatures, other animals who would be better suited to that than us, obviously. So,
dude, I forgot about that. Okay, wait, we have to mention, because that was so cool too. Because then there's the part where I think he goes outside for some reason, and he realizes that all the animals are fleeing from the north, and he thinks, logically, you think, like, what do animals run from? They run from humans,
right?
You know what I mean? So he thinks humans must be up north pushing them down, but no. They're running from the glaciers.
Yeah.
I love it. But
I feel like we would die before the animals did in an ice age. Animals like polar bears.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You got to wonder, like, what kind of gear that guy had. What was his name? Professor something?
This guy?
Yeah.
Professor Millward.
He must have had some kind of, like futuristic.
Nerdy name.
Totally. Clarke doesn't give out cool names to anyone. None of Clarke's characters have cool names.
Well, he's got quite a few characters to name.
Yes. Okay, so I love Forgotten Enemy. I'm surprised nobody mentioned it, but if you're listening to this and you're just like, you've read a few Clarke things here and there, I would totally seek out the Forgotten Enemy. I think it's amazing. But so now we're off the Facebook script. So like, what stories? So wait, which one did you say was your favorite?
I liked The Awakening.
Let's talk about that.
So it's a guy who he goes to sleep, but why does he go to sleep? I don't remember what he's doing. Is it because he's sick? Like he's sick and he.
I took very
what'd you write?
Not detailed notes, but this might help. A man goes to sleep so medical technology can advance enough to save his life.
Yeah, so he can't. So he can't. Whatever condition he has, it can't be fixed. So they put him to sleep. And then he wakes up. I don't know if it says, and I just forgot, but I wrote down, I don't know how long he was actually asleep for. And he wakes up, and I guess this is another story that has like that good, like last line. I
wrote wakes up millions of years later.
Yeah. So I think it was a long time.
It's
like I think it's longer than he expects it to be.
Yeah, it was an accident. Don't they explain?
Wait, I was going to try to find it in here because I just like loved the ending of it. And I guess like this is a story that there's some stories that as I'm reading them, I have no idea where it's going. Like, you know what I mean? Like we already talked about how like with his punchlines and stuff, like you might be thinking to yourself like, oh, I'm kind of thinking this is going to be, or like with the one that we just talked about, like you were like, oh, I'm kind of thinking it's going to go in one direction, and then it goes in an opposite direction. And then there's some stories that you're just and this is the same for like other books and stories, like you're reading them and you're kind of just like innocently reading them. You're not like thinking what's going on here. And then just like something happens. So this was I think a really short one. Yeah, it's like 3 pages long.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about some of these stories is that, you know, when you're like, oh, if you like were thinking you might want to read a story, these will literally take you 10 minutes to read. But so he like wakes up from his sleep and he can hear noises, like he said. So he can't see at first when he wakes up.
Yeah.
And he's thinking about him. So like, he's like, what's everything going to be like, like what's changed? And then he hears, I feel like that was something like he hears some noises and he doesn't know what they are. I feel like he says what he might think that they are. But I can't remember. And so it says here, then the master's eyes, that was what he was called, the master, eyes came into focus. And as they brought their message to his mind, he screamed once feebly and died forever. For in the last moment of his life, as he saw what stood around him, he knew that the long war between man and insect was ended and that man was not the victor. So it was insects.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool.
It's just crazy to imagine what happened between.
Yeah. I mean, who would
present
ever
day.
No.
Because insects would have to evolve enough to become intelligent, and then we would have to do battle, and then we would have to lose.
Well,
Seems
here's the
long
thing.
and
There's probably some little insect historians out there that are writing down all the bad things we do to them, which is just like kill them all the time.
True.
So maybe they would have a lot, like a lot of, anger. So who knows? Maybe all the insects are plotting.
Yeah, because of you. Remember when I came here to get that?
Okay, I didn't do anything bad
from you, and the spider was outside, and you were going to flick it?
I flicked him. I moved him.
What are you flicking animals for that are outside?
Because what's probably going to happen? He's going to come inside of the building, and then he's going to get killed.
Oh, you were saving him?
Well, yeah.
Okay, then you'll be spared when the insects take over.
No, I don't think that I will be. Before I moved into this apartment, I saved like every spider. And then I moved into this apartment where there are so many spiders in here. And it just got to a point where I was like, I can't save all of you. So I kill most of them. And I do feel
amazing.
bad about it.
Well,
but
we won't be here in a million years. So we won't have to worry about being
right
eradicated
unless we go to sleep for a really long time. I feel like that's a common thing, like maybe not common, but that you would go to sleep.
Rumpelstiltskin?
Yeah, but then like not wake up for a really, really long time. Like, what is that movie? It's such a stupid movie. But I recently watched it. It's like Idiocracy or something.
Yeah.
With Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
And they go, it's like an experiment for them to go, him and Maya Rudolph go to sleep. Have you ever seen the movie?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so they go to sleep and the government puts them to sleep.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to wake up, I don't know how much late, like how many years in the future. And instead, they wake up like way, 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 way in the future. And everyone is so stupid.
Yeah.
When they wake up.
But that movie's, I don't remember that movie super well, but I do remember the concept is awesome. That like the reason everyone's dumb is because the idea is that less intelligent people have tons of kids.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
And the more intelligent, I guess, people tend to have less kids. And I think they explain, like, as the future goes on, those two polar opposites become more extreme, so that you have, like an intelligent couple has one intelligent kid, an unintelligent couple has 6 unintelligent kids. Eventually, everyone's going to be an idiot.
And then by the time they wake up, the Luke Wilson character is like the smartest. And like he's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Except he's the smartest person. And they're like, you're going to help solve all of our problems. Like, why are our crops dying? And he realizes that it's because they're watering them with like soda.
Yeah.
So like,
isn't Terry Crews the president?
Yes.
Dude, that's the best part. He's the best part.
And like Maya Rudolph is like a prostitute, but she tells him that she's an artist, or no, he like for some reason thinks she's an artist. So it's just like really funny, like because he's like just stupid.
Yeah.
And Dax Shepard's in it. He's the guy who's like, he lands, his little capsule like lands in his apartment.
I don't remember it too well.
It's kind of,
I'll have to watch it again because it is sci-fi.
And it kind of reminds me of WALL-E because of how the world is literally covered in trash.
Oh yeah.
Which is like not too crazy of an idea.
Especially if you visit certain other countries.
Yeah. It's like there's trash everywhere.
Like the ground
there's
is
just
trash.
like trash.
And Justin Long plays a doctor, right?
Yes, he's in it for a second.
Yeah, I remember that scene.
They all have tattoos of like barcodes. And so they're like, what's wrong with you? Like, why don't you have a barcode? And he goes to jail.
Okay.
Because he like doesn't have a barcode, but then he tricks them. Because he's like, I'm in the line to go to jail, but I was actually supposed to get out of jail today. And then they like let him leave.
Nice. I have to rewatch that.
So anyway, it just it made me think of that. I feel like there's some other movie or story where somebody goes to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, it's
a long time.
The original. Well, probably not. No, not the original. But I read H.G. Wells has one called "When the Sleeper Wakes."
Oh.
It's the same thing. Like a guy goes to sleep in like 1890 and wakes up hundreds of years in the future.
Yeah,
It's the same exact setup.
Yeah, I feel like there's another one that like it's not that far in the future, but like people who are like going to sleep, whatever, for whatever reason, just wake up like a lot later. I feel like there's like a movie we watched when we were younger.
Remember The Time Machine? Well, he doesn't go to sleep, but remember he gets knocked out?
Okay.
Which is not... Now, The Time Machine's based again on an H.G. Wells book, but this movie we're talking about with Guy Pearce, it's not the same thing as the book. It's kind of similar, but anyway, in the movie version, he gets like knocked out while he's going forward.
Okay.
And then, so the machine just keeps going.
That's like a really cool part of that movie.
And then it like breaks down, I think, 800 years. I think it's, or maybe million.
But is he?
No, it can't be 800. It's like 8 million.
Yeah.
So
I just remember the visual of that, like when it's going through time in that movie is super cool.
Oh yeah.
But there's like one that we watched when we were younger about like a guy who goes, I don't know why he gets, what happens? It's I guess some kind of time traveling thing, and then it's like he's like late for dinner or something. It's like a love story, and then like he shows up like years and years later. This might have been before your time.
Forever Young. Mel Gibson.
Is that what it is?
Jamie Lee Curtis. I know that he gets frozen in that movie.
Well, apparently we're gonna have to do a little research on this, or somebody else can. But apparently, this is a theme of like going to sleep and waking up, and just like seeing how the world would change. And that's a really cool thing to think about.
Yeah.
Like, would it be better? Would it be worse? Would it be taken over by insects?
Well, one thing that's interesting about this story is the very first... Well, the idea is that the story, like the main character's present is our future.
Okay.
Which I don't know
how
important that is, but
that's...
it's like... Because the first line of the story basically says that utopia is boring. That this character's living in utopia, which is a futuristic idea, and that he's bored by it. Not only does he need the medical thing, but like he's bored by it. You know what?
Well, he doesn't really fare too well.
True. You know what's funny? And I might cut this out. I have a feeling that I read out of that book. I did not read out of this book. I have a feeling that these stories are slightly different from those ones.
Oh, really?
Because you referred to that character as the master.
Yeah.
And I was going to bring this up. So The Awakening is like a shortened version of a story that was in Expedition to Earth.
Oh.
It's like and in the Expedition to Earth version, he's called the Master. In this one, he's called Marlin.
Oh, really?
So this is just weird.
You know what's interesting about the story, like now that I'm thinking about it, is it's called The Awakening. So obviously it's going to be all about him waking up. But like you kind of forget that as you're reading it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I feel like titles of short stories like never.
But I think that's a great
anything to
title.
me. I agree.
Maybe it's because it makes me think of that book, that really famous book by Kate something.
Yeah, Kate.
What the heck is her name?
I don't know.
But anyway.
So, because in the elongated version, and I can't remember what it's called, it's a guy who, it's the same situation, but it's like he's like a warmonger. He's like at war. So he goes to sleep thinking he's going to wake up like in 100 years, but he ends up getting buried, which is similar to this story.
Yeah.
And when he wakes up, it's not explicitly said that there are insects, but when he wakes up, the beings who wake him up are telepathic.
Mm-hmm.
And they understand just by being in his presence, they can read his mind and they can tell that he's a good-for-nothing warmonger.
Oh, boy.
And they just kill him. Like, they don't even wake him up.
That's like a really different story.
But it's just weird that you called him the master, because
Yeah,
that's
I'm
what his
looking at it
name
right
is in
now.
the story.
Yeah. And it says the master wondered. But that, I mean, that's got to be the future, too, because it's not like we can say, oh, we don't have a cure for cancer, so everybody who has cancer just go to sleep.
Yeah.
And then we'll wake.
Dude, we should totally, okay, since we're
up.
talking about that, we should talk about a movie that I watched over
What?
the past week that you didn't watch. But really quick, give me the first line of The Awakening, because I guarantee it's
I
different.
just had it. Hold on.
Guarantee it's different.
What page is it on? 24? The master wondered whether he would dream. Even that's a cool line. What? Is it the same?
No, it is completely different.
What?
What's the second paragraph? First line of the second paragraph.
He remembered the day still only a few months ago when a frightened doctor had said, "Sir, your heart is failing." What's going on? Are we reading different stories here?
Well, I read from that collection. I have this book.
But
I
that's
read
right.
from
I forgot.
that collection.
Okay.
This is not okay. This
says first published in Zenith, revised version published in Future. First published by Manchester fans Harry Turner and Marion Eady in their fanzine Zenith. Oh,
I think that's Zenith.
okay. And significantly revised for publication in Future in 1952.
Future is italicized?
Yes.
Okay. That must explain it. Because listen to this first line. Marlon was bored with the ultimate boredom that only utopia can supply.
That's weird.
So it sounds like in this one he goes to sleep because he's bored. And in the one that you and I read, he goes to sleep so that medicine can catch up with whatever's wrong with him.
Well, yeah, and it does. Yeah, it has a lot to do with the fact that he's doing work.
And so I would have to assume that what you are reading became what I was talking about, that first story that I read like a couple weeks ago.
Oh.
And this, or maybe, I don't even know.
That's weird.
Very weird.
Well, but I guess...
But the same principle.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's to be expected if these stories are going through multiple, like, versions in multiple different publications.
Yeah, especially, like, if you publish a story, if you're lucky enough to get a story published in, like, the 40s when your, like, career has barely begun.
Yeah.
And then, like, 10 years later, you're more famous, you have more opportunities, and a publisher's like, all right, let's publish those old stories. You might be like, oh, shit, make sure these are better.
I just recently read a book where the woman, like a relatively recent book, where the woman I read a revised version of it.
Really?
Yes, because she said she'd had a chance to go back and correct some mistakes.
This is another connection to the movie I wanted to just mention.
Okay, what's the movie?
Okay.
Tell me.
Elysium.
Oh, I've never seen that. Matt Damon and...
Don't bother.
Somebody? Okay.
Yeah, Matt Damon and a bunch of people who were really, really just wanted to be in a film by the director of District 9, but who were all just disappointed because they were in a much worse film. But anyway, so Neil Blomkamp made District 9, and we all know that's an incredible movie. Incredible movie. So I think he was given free reign to just do whatever he wanted with a sequel, which is fair. And Elysium, the reason I wanted to bring it up is because, so the idea with Elysium is Earth is overpopulated, diseased, just fucked up, and not a nice place to live. I think it's like 2140, I think is when it takes place, so like 120 years from now. So Earth is just not a place you want to be. It's gross, it's overpopulated, disease, no jobs. Everyone's scraping by. But there exists a space station called Elysium, which is the design is basically it's a wheel and it spins, and the people live on the inside of the wheel, so stuck to it as it spins. That's what creates the gravity.
Okay.
So you're on a wheel, like you're on the inside of a wheel, but you have gravity. You're like against it.
Okay.
So if you see it's cool just like to see the world like go up this way and up that way on either side of you. You know what I mean?
Huh, yeah.
So anyway, that's where all the rich people live. It's like the movie fails because the metaphor is almost just too perfect to even expand into a movie. Like the metaphor is great. Like it's like the chosen ones. You have like, the 1% lives up in Elysium where life is perfect and literally no disease. And this is the major problem with the story. But then the 99%, the rest of us, we all live down in horrible, terrible Earth. And so the thing that's dumb, dude, is it's like on Elysium, but not on Earth, they have this machine that you lay in and a thing goes over you and you're instantly cured of all diseases, no matter what the disease is.
Okay.
So the story is that Matt Damon's on Earth and he works at this like some kind of plant where there's radiation involved.
Okay.
And he has to go in this room. He fucks up. And then the door won't close. So his foreman is like, you got to go in there and fix it.
Uh-oh.
And so on the one hand, it's like you want to sympathize with Matt Damon because that dude's a dick for sending him into the room. But it's like, dude, you fucked up and you got the pallet stuck. But anyway, so he goes in and of course the door shuts and he gets doused with radiation. And he's told like, bro, you got like 5 days to live. So in his mind, he's like, so they also show before this happens, they show that there are illegal immigrants, like spaceships that take off from Earth that aren't allowed to land on Elysium, but that do it anyway. But it doesn't make any sense, dude, because it's like 3 ships going towards Elysium, and the people in like the control room of Elysium are like, attention, like you cannot land here. Do not land here. We will shoot you down. And they're like, we're going to keep going. And so they shoot them down, except for one. And that one lands, and like this lady like runs out, sticks like a kid in the machine, and they're cured. And it's like, but then they get instantly deported back to Earth. So it's like, why are you going to Elysium if you can't even exist there? Like, are you just going through all this trouble to get there just to cure yourself of all your diseases, to just go back to Earth?
Yeah, that doesn't, where it's like crappy.
Yeah. But then at the same time, it's like, it's just like, if you can instantly cure people, it's just too complicated, man. It's like you can't have those on Earth because you can't just have a bunch of immortal people running around because then your overpopulation problem will become even worse.
Oh, so you can't even die of like natural causes?
I don't know. They don't really get into you probably can, but like.
Or I guess at that point, what is.
But it's like if you have like terminal cancer, like you're about to die, if you get in one of these machines, you're cured in a second. So it's just kind of dumb. But anyway, so Matt Damon gets doused with radiation. So then he goes to his buddy who like does the illegal things, and he's like, I have to go there. Like I'm gonna die. I have to go there. So anyway, try to think of where I was going with this. Well, you said like revising. So Neil Blomkamp admits now that that's a bad movie.
Oh, okay.
And he even like I read a quote because it's one of those movies you're watching it and you're like, this movie is made with such competence. Like it's visually, it's gorgeous. Like it's just the script is just dead in the water. So he even said in a quote, he was like, I just got obsessed with the metaphor, and the script just wasn't ready.
So he wrote the script also?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he said like, I'm not there. Like I'm not there, but I'm almost at a point where I want to literally go back and just remake that movie.
Oh.
So it's like, I don't know. I mean, he's got a new movie coming out.
I was just going to ask, like, what's he done since then?
He did Chappie, which was actually pretty good.
I have not seen that.
I mean,
he's a robot or something?
Yeah.
I never saw that, but I know, I remember it.
It's basically about, like, AI, and
okay.
Charlton Copley plays the robot.
Yeah.
And he plays the best part in Elysium, too.
Okay.
So they're obviously whatever, like buddies. But he has a new film coming out that is apparently like supernatural horror or something like that. It was filmed, I read, like, since I watched Elysium, it was filmed entirely during the pandemic, like during 2020, summer of 2020. But anyway, but then you mentioned that medical technology. It just doesn't make sense because by the end of the movie, they Matt Damon is cured and they make it so that the entire population of Earth becomes a citizen of Elysium so that like they can get cured. So then all these ships go down to Earth and the doors open and there's just rows upon rows of those machines. Just like, so
who's been manufacturing those?
Exactly. Like, why are you making these if you have a set amount of people who live in Elysium? You know, it's just, anyway.
Yeah, it's like the mechanics of the movie just don't make sense.
Yeah, but like I said, just like, and it's so, dude, Jodie Foster. I love.
Okay, is she? I was thinking she was in it. Yeah, I was like, I think it's Jodie Foster.
She plays the villain.
Oh,
and I love Jodie Foster, man.
Yeah.
There's no hate towards Jodie Foster, but girl, what is that accent you are doing? My goodness. She like switches between normal American accent to this like weird, I don't even know kind of weird accent, but she switches in the movie.
I feel like she could play a good villain too, so that's unfortunate that she's...
And you know, that's the problem, dude, is because she is just so one note in the movie. She's just so evil, and it's like, girl...
See, I feel like she could be like real icy and like...
Oh, she's very icy. Very icy. And then at the end... I'm giving the whole thing away. Who cares? At the end, dude, like...
If they haven't seen it, I feel like it's old enough.
It's 8 years old.
Spoiler alerts are not a thing anymore.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen Elysium and you're hearing me talk about this, just watch District 9 again. Oh, it's worth your time.
I haven't watched that in so long.
So, anyway, at the end, Charlton Copley, he's kind of power hungry, too. He's like her henchman, so he's a villain.
Oh,
so, like, he, like, kills her.
Uh-oh.
Like, stabs her in the neck.
Oh, jeez.
Because she is trying to get him to help her gain power, and then he realizes, well, what I was going to do for you, I could just do for me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stab you in the
Get
fucking
you
neck.
out of here.
and then, dude, like the character that she was like gonna kill is then like trying to save her life, and then she's like, "Don't help me," and then she dies, and it's like, what?
She probably felt bad. She's like, "I'm not worth saving."
It's just weird, man. But dude, okay, so Charlton Copley, there's one dope scene where they're flying, like the final scene where like trying to get Matt Damon to Elysium.
Okay.
They're in a ship, and dude, Matt Damon, like Charlton Copley's trying to kill Matt Damon, okay? And Matt Damon knows that at the same time, Charlton Copley has the only ship that can get to Elysium, so he has to get close to the person who's trying to kill him.
Oh boy.
So how he does is he's holding a grenade, and he pulls the pin, and he's just holding it. And he's like, "You're going to take me up to Elysium." And Charlton Copley, dude, he's so good. He's like, "Come on." He's like, "You can come right in. Come on." You know, with his self.
But why is he holding a grenade?
So that he has power over the situation. If he lets go, they all everyone dies.
Okay.
So right when they reach Elysium, there's a little tussle, and the fucking grenade goes off.
Oh my god.
And dude, it blows Charlton Copley's face and the way it's shot is so good, dude. It's his face just like disintegrates, dude.
Gosh.
But so guess what they do? His little henchman, the henchman's henchman, bring him to one of those machines.
Oh yeah, it fixes your face,
dude. It's such a cool shot. It just like it reconfigures his face like in one shot, and then he's like perfect, and he's alive. So again,
that's not. Those machines don't sound like. There should have been limits put on those.
Yeah, those machines are probably the problem. If it was just that life was better in Elysium and life was terrible on Earth, but if you have this like magic machine that can bring people back to life, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but then there would be no reason for Matt Damon to need to go there, other than like wanting to go there. But you know what I mean?
True. Right. And then another thing, dude, Matt Damon gets an exosuit, which is like a metal thing that you put around your body to make you stronger, so that like when I lift my arm, I'm not using my muscle. It's this like machine is doing it, but you're in control.
Okay.
So Matt Damon gets one of those things, and like that's kind of cool. But it's like Matt Damon should either be dying and be a badass who can beat anyone up, or he should be not dying, not be a badass who gets the suit that then allows him to beat people up. It's when you have the combination of he's dying, he has a suit that allows him to beat people up, and he needs to get to Elysium. It's like too much going on.
Yeah.
But okay, I'll shut up after this. There's one super dude, so when they finally catch him at the end and they're like, oh god. So the whole other thing is that he has information in his head that she needs to take over Elysium. So they have to get that shit out of his head. So they get him tied down. But then it's just it's like one of the cool scenes where because he's wearing the exosuit, they tie him down. It's just like two doctors that are doing it. And he's just like, nope, and breaks out with both his arms and just like, kills them and then like goes and gets revenge. I don't know. It's just cool. Anyway. You're
like, this movie's bad. But let me tell you about all these really cool parts in it.
That's the thing. It's like, I don't know. It's tough.
How did you watch it?
I rented it on PSN.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's so many movies. I don't even like remember. You know what I mean? Like, I obviously know about that movie, but
well, yeah. But when I say
completely forgotten about it,
well, that's because it's bad and no one talks about it.
No, I know.
When
but
I
like,
say
just
District
think
9,
about that.
District 9's older, and you probably have vivid.
I remember going
memories.
to see that movie. It was on my birthday. It was in California. We went and saw that movie, and it was so good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you just forget about bad movies, but that makes sense.
There's just too many movies in the world.
True, especially now that everyone's got a streaming service.
I know.
So what else? What other stories struck you?
Let me look at my notes. Okay, there's one story. It was the last one that I read. Let me find it here. Times Arrow. Okay, I have a question about this story.
Yes.
So
this one left me wanting a little more.
Okay. So in this version of it, this collection of it.
Let's do a comparison. Let's compare the first
All right,
line.
let me find it.
Actually, it's probably the same because that one was different because you read that it was different.
What?
Because the other one we know is different because you read a thing that said it was revised. This one's probably not.
But there's, in this version, in this collection of it, there's a note at the beginning of it. Wait, I have to find it here so that I can. Okay, 225. Okay, so there's a note in the beginning of the story, and then I couldn't figure out what it was in the story that the note is talking about. So, okay, so Times Arrow. Oh, this says first published in Science Fantasy Summer 1950, collected in Reach for Tomorrow. So it probably is the same. But it says, Times Arrow is an example of how hard it is for the science fiction writer to keep ahead of fact. The quite, at the time, imaginary discovery described in the tale now actually exists and may be seen in the New York Natural History Museum. I think it most unlikely, however, that the rest will come true. What are they talking about? What is in the History Museum?
If I had to guess, it's got to be a dinosaur skeleton. Well,
so he was writing a fictional story with a fictional dinosaur skeleton.
Dude,
and then later on, they actually found it.
Okay.
So this story, as far as I can tell, is about these geologists who are working on this site, and they're doing a dig.
Yep.
I guess of a dinosaur. I don't know how I didn't pick that up.
Well, okay, maybe not. That. Well, because there's a part. You know how it starts with like a way in the past. It's 2 paragraphs that are separated.
Yeah.
Okay, so he says. It says, there were not many places where it was safe to walk, and even where the ground was hardest, the great pistons of its feet sank a foot or more beneath the weight they carried. Okay, pistons.
Bird-like movements of its head. Okay, I just didn't
know pistons,
what he was talking about.
Isn't a piston a mechanical thing? Or is he saying it's like the same thing in nature, like your ankle?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think of it as a mechanical thing, but
so what is that? Isn't that in the past?
Well, no. So I guess knowing now that it's like a dinosaur makes more sense. So basically, in the story, there's these geologists and they're doing a dig, and then there's another site near it, and it's really secretive work.
Yeah.
And the guy who's like running their dig goes to visit that site. And then the guy who's running the other site like comes to their site. And so they're like, what are you doing over there? And he won't tell them. And then again, like just like he likes to do, you have like the big reveal at the end. So then like there's a part at the end when the two geologists are digging and they're like, where's the guy running this with the Jeep? Like, we don't want to have to walk back to camp.
Yeah.
So one of them goes up a hill and he sees like an explosion or something, but it's not an explosion. It's like
flashing lights or something.
Yeah, like he describes it, and then he says that the other geologist didn't hear it. Like he was with a drill, and so there was like no way that he could have heard it. So they're digging at this site, and then they know earlier that the Jeep that they drive from the site to their camp gets new tires.
Yeah, that was a very obvious, like foreshadowing, I thought.
Well, I mean, it just makes you go, something's going to happen with these tires.
Yeah, in such a short story, like why would you talk about the treads on a tire?
Right. So after this like explosion happens, then they're digging and then they find the Jeep. Is that what happened?
No, they find the Jeep's track. They find the treads of the Jeep.
So that they were traveling in time.
I think
is that what's happening here?
I think the idea is that they're digging up like an animal's footprints, right?
Okay.
And they're trying to figure out what it was chasing, right? Because they're talking about the strides.
Okay.
And I think the idea is that what that dinosaur was chasing 55 million years ago or 65 million years ago was their boss's Jeep.
Okay. So the Jeep definitely did go back in time.
Yeah.
And then it was driving away from
But at the same time,
thing.
I could be completely wrong because it says piston. That means that it's not a dinosaur, because that mean if it's a piston and it's mechanical, then that means that maybe they were bringing something back that was mechanical and had pistons for feet. Like I don't get it. Honestly, I really don't. I don't. And the only thing that confuses me about this story is that word. Pistons.
Well, okay, hold on. Let's get a definition of the word piston.
Well, yeah, because you could say like a ball joint. Like a ball joint is your shoulder, but it's also a thing that humans have created to build stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe a piston could be a natural ankle or something, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, a disc or short cylinder fitting closely with a tube. It's just describing a valve. Yeah, no, nothing. It's no like part of the body.
Yeah, so that's why. I mean, I have a feeling that that neither of us understand this story.
Okay,
that's just my personal.
Okay. I mean, it was a little almost distracting to have read that at the beginning and then kind of spend the story going, what is he talking about? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I didn't not like the story, and I thought the ending was pretty good, but I was confused by the details, but I want the details. You know?
Yeah, I feel like some of these stories though have details that like I'm just kind of like I don't know what they're talking about, and I don't really think it matters.
Yeah.
Like scientific details.
Yeah.
That I'm like, I don't really know what this is, and I don't know that I need to. And it's more like not getting like caught up in those. Like, I'm just like, I don't know what this is talking about, but I don't really think it's going to matter. So I'm not going to worry about it. But I mean, but I also feel like to say that in the beginning of the story, which like not every version, not every, place where the story appears is necessarily going to have that. Like maybe that was a little bit distracting because I was like, what? I guess I thought it was going to be like whatever they were doing or something was going to have something to do with what is an actual thing that we've discovered. So
yeah, I guess that like what?
I don't know.
What are maybe it's like I don't know. Like, what is he talking about that was discovered right after he wrote it?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure we could probably do more research into this and maybe figure it out.
Well, here, fuck it. I really want to know. So only if it's easy to find. I'm just going to look up if I can find.
Okay, let me, and
really
then
quick.
I'm going to see so Trouble with the Natives we both liked.
Oh, wait, I want to talk about that. What's the story called? Time Zero. Sorry.
Yeah.
Here we go. Time Zero, short story.
Okay, what's it say?
The story follows a group of scientists, 2 geologists and a paleontologist, who are excavating dinosaur footprints. They come across 2 physicists who are investigating a strange liquid that exhibits negentropy, which Davis describes as being akin to time's arrow, as any clock you care to mention, a pendulum, for instance, might just as easily run forward as backward. But entropy is a strictly one-way affair. It's always increasing with the passage of time, hence the expression time's arrow. This causes the realization that negentropy could result in reversal of time. Fowler is invited to visit Henderson's lab, during which time the 2 geologists come to believe that the physicist is trying to effectively build a way to view the past firsthand. Henderson confirms their conclusion and asks Fowler to join them during the machine's first test run. The dig continues, and the team discovers that the footprints give off the impression that the dinosaur was chasing something.
Okay.
Fowler sets off for the lab via jeep, shortly after which Davis sees the lab explode and the surrounding area ripple. He returns to alert Barton, who has discovered that the dinosaur tracks are accompanied by jeep tire prints, implying that the dinosaur had chased after the subsequently trampled Fowler. So, I think that Clarke was just being fucking clever or scientifically minded by referring to the leg of a dinosaur as a piston.
Okay. This story to me would be really good. Like visually, I feel like this story would be better. Like if it were a movie or something.
I agree. I think, it reminds me of the only Michael Crichton story that is about time travel. I'll just give a quick reason why it reminds me. So, like, what happens in that one is, like, you have a professor and all his undergrads or graduate people going for the doctorates or whatever. They're in France digging up a castle from the 1400s, and the professor gets called away, similar in this story, gets called away by these other people doing something else, like about medieval stuff. And then the students continue digging, and eventually they dig under this thing that's been buried for like 400 years, and they find the professor's glasses.
Oh.
And they've been there for 400 years. So the professor got taken away, time traveled back in time to that spot, was doing all kinds of stuff. It's just cool to think like that you see the evidence, like that something built within the last like 20 years in your present time.
Right.
If you take it back in time and you leave it there, you can find it present day, but it's going to be like 400 years old.
Yeah, time travel is so weird.
Yeah, but I just think it's cool. And it's kind of similar that like
no, it is.
Like the glasses and the tire tread marks are the difference. It's like, why is this present day object found among things that are hundreds or thousands or millions of years old? It's a cool concept.
No, it is. I mean, I do think it's cool. Like I said, maybe that thing in the beginning.
He shouldn't have said pistons.
Bad.
I'm sorry, Clarke, you fucked up. But wait, okay, let's do
Trouble with the Natives.
Yes. There's one image in that story that I think is so awesome and hilarious.
What? Which one?
Just the image of them driving in the convertible with their disguises peeling off.
Oh yeah.
Just the to imagine that is just so funny.
Oh gosh, yeah, they were pretty funny. Those two, I don't remember what their names were. Dan Store, is that one of them? And Chris Steele.
I don't know, some stupid made up alien names.
Yeah, well, and there was like the captain or whatever. Captain, are we supposed to be able to say that name? Because it's spelled Wyxtpthl. Are we supposed to know how to say that?
No idea. I don't know.
Because I wrote that in my notes.
I don't know.
I was like, are we supposed to know how to say this? But yeah, like it was just funny them walking around. Like, I feel like that's another funny concept, is to think about like how you would interpret something, and that they were dressed like fancy or something. Like someone at one point is like, but they don't get it quite right. Like they're like, are you going somewhere fancy?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like if you know, when people from other countries watch like American sitcoms and like assume that that's what we're all like. And it's like, yeah, I mean, we're not.
Right.
So it's just kind of funny to see how people can like misinterpret like other cultures.
Yeah. There's some, I can't remember, but wait, so give like a brief plot.
Well,
like why are they on the planet? I can't remember.
I think they're like doing research, but no one will talk to them.
And they're on Earth, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's aliens researching humans on Earth.
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, they've just like put on disguises.
Well, there's different kinds of aliens though, and the reason that they have to send the two that they do is because they are more easily disguised as humans.
Okay.
I think they only have
2 legs and 2 arms.
2 legs and 2 arms. Yeah. And so they're like, oh darn, we have to send these guys. So like they're kind of dumb, but they're most they look the most like humans,
okay.
So they require the least amount of disguise.
So if we make this into a movie, because of that description, the 2 aliens should be played by Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill.
I was thinking, for some reason, I was thinking about like Pineapple Express, like maybe like Seth Rogen.
Well, I just said Jonah Hill because of like 21 Jump Street, how they're like kind of dummies. I just picture them like, I don't know, that'd be funny.
But that would be funny to think about. Like, I think that's why I thought of Seth Rogen and James Franco in Pineapple Express, because they're just like kind of dumb.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, they're trying to find someone to talk to, and like nobody will talk to them. But then I didn't write in my notes. They finally do find someone.
Well, they go to jail.
Oh, that's right.
I love that part. They get sent to jail.
That's right. And they get them out. They get the guy out of jail. But they do something.
Yeah, it's like really easy.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, we're in jail. Like, it's really easy for me to not be in this jail, but I'm going to cause a scene if I like use my alien technology.
Yeah. And then when they finally do, I think they're just like cold calling. They're like knocking on doors.
Yeah.
And then they get to someone and they write something down for her, but because they've only heard the radio, they say transmissions will be resumed as soon as possible. And she's like, what? That's not a normal thing to say.
It should be called Trouble with the Visitors.
I know.
They're the dummies. But then how do they get out of the jail? Do they just like make a hole in the wall?
Yes.
Really easily?
They do. Yeah. I don't, and like then the policeman that put them in there like goes back to find them, and they're just not there.
And then why are they in the convertible? I just read this story. I can't remember.
I know. I just read it the other day too, and I didn't write very good notes about it. I wish I'd written more specific. But yeah, they finally find a guy to talk to, and he's also in jail.
Oh yeah.
So then they get him out of jail with them, and then maybe it's his car. Is it his convertible?
I don't remember. I just remember it's like a lighter Clarke story, but it has good sci-fi at the same time.
And then I guess at the end they're like, we should have gone to Mars.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We shouldn't have gone to Earth. Yeah, Graham is the guy. Yeah, he's driving the convertible. The sight was rather unsettling, for their ears and hair, which had not been glued on very firmly, had blown away, and their real selves were beginning to emerge.
Dude, that scene is so funny.
Graham began to suspect with some discomfort that his new acquaintances also lacked noses. That part was really funny. I forgot about that.
I feel like Graham was in jail because he was drunk, so I feel like because he's like drunk and disorderly, and that's why
he's probably like, am I still drunk?
Exactly.
These guys look a little weird.
Exactly.
Or maybe he thinks he's still drunk when they get him out of the jail.
Right.
Yeah. How do they get out of the jail?
I think
they do. They put like a hole in something.
Yeah, it's like a perfectly circular hole in the wall. They just, it's like really, really trivial for them.
Yeah. And it's like they were maybe trying not to do that because they wanted to look normal, but then they're like, well, this is not doing us any good. We need to get out of here.
Yeah, it's so funny. And it reminds me of another bad yet competently made science fiction film, Star Trek Into Darkness.
Okay. Which one is?
Let me guess, you don't remember it.
Well, what is it?
Because it's bad.
Is it the recent?
It's the sequel. Yeah, it's the second of the new Star Trek directed by
with
J.J. Abrams.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yes. So that sequel movie is just not a good movie, and I'm not the only one who thinks that. Whereas the first one is incredible.
The first one is so good.
Exactly.
I love the first one.
And that's what makes the utter averageness of the sequel just so disappointing.
I feel like there's a theme here, the sophomore slump.
Oh, yeah.
All these people's their second movie ever, but like the second anticipated movie is terrible.
We will be talking about a third movie in a series quite soon, which it's not a sophomore. It doesn't matter. Okay, wait. So anyway, the and it's too bad because the opening scene of Star Trek Into Darkness is one of the greatest just deep space science fiction openings ever. Okay, so they're on this planet. I don't remember what they're doing or why they're there, but it's very red.
Okay.
And they're on this planet, and it's I think it's Spock, Kirk, and I think Carl Urban's character, who's the doctor. I think it's the three of them, and they're running. They're running away from like a beast.
Okay.
Oh, they're also running away from like the natives.
Oh, geez.
Of this planet.
Okay.
Which kind of look human, but they're like white and they have like black eyes. Anyway, one of the rules for the people on the USS Enterprise is that you do not reveal yourselves to planets that are developing. So planets with like minor intelligences. So these natives, they act like, people like 1,000 years ago, say, like cavemen.
Okay.
So
they're primitive.
They're intelligent, yeah, but they're not. Yeah, they're primitive. So the whole idea in that scene is it's like we can, like you guys are being chased, or Spock is going to die, and we can save you, but we have to show these natives that we're in a spaceship in order to save you. Yeah. So it's this big issue. Obviously, Spock's the logical one. He's like, "Do not save me.
Right.
Do not show yourselves." And then Kirk is like, "We're doing it." So what they do is they show themselves, blah, blah, blah. It's like a big action moment. And then at the end, and this is all before the credits, dude, the last shot before the title card is these natives of this planet drawing the USS Enterprise in the dirt and worshiping it.
Oh.
So it's like you have completely altered the trajectory of this civilization.
Yeah.
Of this species of aliens.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting. Like they were probably having a similar debate in the jail cell. Is it's like,
right,
we either save ourselves and reveal ourselves, or we sit in this stupid jail.
Well, and you kind of get the idea as the reader that like the guy Graham or whatever, like he's probably going to tell people, well, I was in jail and these.
Yeah, they're going to be like, you were drunk.
Aliens got me out. And they're going to be like, Graham, you drink too much.
Yeah, you're the town drunk.
And like the police officer is going to be like, that didn't happen, because he doesn't want people to know.
That it happened on his watch.
Yes. So that was actually pretty smart by them.
Yeah.
And they don't have like, I feel like in maybe like Men in Black, aren't there aliens that can just like make themselves look like humans? So,
probably, yeah.
That's like a little bit of a cop-out.
Yeah.
If you and then in this story you have aliens who have to like disguise themselves, and they do so kind of poorly.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think they're dressed fancy, and that's just like really funny.
Yeah.
Like they're like, "Oh, this is a normal outfit," and everyone's like, "Where are you going?"
Dude, yeah, I love it.
So I like that. I liked that one. What else do we have here? Wasn't the Parasite one that a lot of people liked?
Yeah.
That one is pretty dark.
Remind me of.
Well, so, I mean, from what I got from it, it's something like takes over this guy's mind, and he's telling his friend about it. And then so then they're like talking about it, And then they're in a hotel. It's like they're at like a
spa or something,
like a resort. Yeah. I guess. And then there's like a woman. I don't really remember, or maybe I just like never really understood like what the deal was with like women. He has to like stay away from women. Like I think he's married. The guy with the parasite in his head, I wrote his name down. Connolly.
Yeah.
So he has this, or parasite, whatever. He has this thing that's like taking over his mind, and he's married, and then he has like a mistress. Like he has a girlfriend or whatever. So, but he has to stay away from women, and I don't know why. And then at the end of the story, the girlfriend comes to see him, and the friend, whose name is Pearson, who like didn't really believe Connolly, but was like, you know what, I'm gonna like believe you because it's you and you're saying it, and like for the sake of like me helping you, I'll just accept that you do truly have something taking over your mind. So then at the end, the woman comes to see him and comes to see Connolly, and then Pearson like sees them and they're like talking or something, and the woman pulls out a gun, and then Connolly takes the gun and shoots himself, and then the thing takes over Pearson's mind.
Yes. Okay, I remember that now.
Yeah. So it's kind of dark, and like it, like what was the thing? It's sort of like stories, like there's science fiction movies and stuff where it needs like a host, like a thing needs like a host body.
Yep.
And I feel like, to me, that seems like a very evil thing. Like it's like very smart, you know, it's more advanced than we are. And it's like, like these bodies are disposable. I just need one so I can move around.
Oh, that's creepy.
You know? So like that's
it's like STEM.
Yeah.
From
STEM.
Upgrade.
Oh yeah. That's such a good movie.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? So it's like it just needs. But then I don't know why it didn't want to be in Connolly's mind anymore. It needed to kill him and then be in Pearson's mind.
Well, maybe Connolly probably killed himself just because he didn't want it in his mind anymore, and that's what made it jump.
Oh,
that was my guess.
So he
it only
did it.
Jumped because
I got the idea that the thing
himself.
was making him kill himself, so he could go to a different. Well, he could probably just do that without killing him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but that's what I got.
Okay,
from it. Especially if Connolly is the skeptic in the beginning, then he would. Well, he would then. I'm saying it makes sense that it just makes the story more impactful that the thing that he was skeptical of then becomes, his.
Well, no,
overlord.
Pearson's the friend. Connolly's the one with it in his head.
Okay, I'm sorry. So Pearson's the
but I get what
one?
you're saying. Yes,
right.
yes.
Okay. So it's more effective in a story if he's the one who gets then possessed.
And I feel like one of the comments said that the parasite is a little different than other Arthur C. Clarke stories, and I get the feeling that it's like
what? Wait, hold on. I have to. No, well, because that's
what?
It was I'm pretty sure the Possessed was the one.
Possessed?
And because that's the thing that I was going to say is that it's weird that the Possessed and the Parasite are in the same collection because they're pretty similar. Did you read the Possessed?
Yeah, but I
did. The lemmings?
You should see all my notes. Yeah. It's literally question marks. It's me writing things down and then writing a question mark after all of them to be like, is this really what this means? But I wrote that they go on the bodies of lizards.
Oh no, you were right. I'm sorry. It is the Parasite that the person said is on
the Parasite is it's pretty dark, and it's like I get the idea that Connolly is like, I have this thing in my mind, but like no one's gonna believe me, and it's like, and then it's just gonna keep taking over people, I guess, if they kill themselves, and then it's just gonna and then nobody else will know because now Pearson is gonna have to convince someone else that there's like a thing in his mind.
Right.
So you're always gonna be like alone.
Yes.
And not be able to have anybody else to like understand what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I got from that one. But it's like, it's kind of dark. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, I agree. But like I said, I mean, so is The Forgotten Enemy. And so is 9 Billion Names of God. I would say this one's a little darker because it's more personal with one person who literally kills themselves in the action of the story.
Right.
But what I'm saying is the best stories, in my opinion, the most effective, have like the sad or the negative endings.
Yeah.
For me personally, that's what I appreciate.
Yeah. So I think I was really confused by the Possessed.
With the Lemmings?
Yeah.
I feel like the quality of the Possessed hinges on the reader's understanding of the behavior of lemmings.
Yes, because...
did you look that up?
I feel like I did, but I don't remember what it said, because there's a note about it in the beginning of the story.
Lemmings, like...
don't actually act like that? Or
well,
don't act...
Why
don't I just find it? 423, I'll find it.
Well, I looked it up in real life that they do, there's something weird with their migration.
What is a lemming?
It's a little tiny mammal. It's like a little tiny mouse-looking thing.
Okay. And they just follow
There's
blindly?
some kind of like migrational thing that they do where they do, in fact, like jump in the water and end up dying.
I feel like there used to be like a computer game we played where there were lemmings and they just like fell off of a little like...
Yeah, I think that...
belt. No, what's those things that
Conveyor
go
belt?
around? Yes. But I don't remember
Sounds like
what
a weird game.
The point of it was. Well, a computer game when I was a kid was like it was like Oregon Trail. There was just, graphics weren't that great. It says the Possessed has sometimes been criticized because lemmings are not really as suicidal as popularly imagined. However, countless numbers do indeed perish in the sea during their periodical population explosions, so I refuse to apologize.
Snarky little Clarke.
We shouldn't have to apologize.
Clarke,
it's a story.
Clarke the Snark. No,
Nobody should have to apologize for anything in a story. It's not true.
I think that in The Possessed, it's like this weird like cultural thing that people think, and it just became sort of like reality even though it isn't real. That probably doesn't make sense. Where it's like, that sounds like there's a game when you were a kid that's about lemmings killing themselves. And Clarke in the 50s wrote a story about lemmings killing themselves. But then he says that in reality, it's not like that. It's almost like, it's like a myth, that like takes root and becomes what we think of as truth, even though maybe it isn't. Because no one actually hangs out with lemmings except for scientists.
Lemmings, I will be honest with you, I found out when you said it what lemmings are. I thought lemmings was like a phrase. I didn't realize they were a real thing. I thought the thing about lemmings was that they just blindly like follow the person in front of them. Like I thought it was like an idea that you don't question things. Like you're just somebody's lemmings. Like you're told to do something, and without question, you just do it because everybody else is doing it.
Yeah,
and you don't think for yourself.
Yeah, like religion. And
but
cults.
It could also be like, like a corporation or something.
Right.
That you just... And I think that was the thing in the computer game. They were just following what the one in front of them was doing, not questioning the fact that they were dying.
I got you. So, honestly, for me personally, what I take away from this story is that the idea that something, as Clarke said, is not actually true can take hold in a culture or in a pop culture, and you can have video games made about it.
Yeah.
You can have stories written about it, and you can have, like you just said, a saying.
Right.
Like a whole new definition based on something that isn't actually true. It's almost like, okay, so we hear about... Exactly, yeah. So you hear about shit, I lost it.
Okay, they're wicked cute. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're like a little mouse.
I know.
What was it? Oh yeah, so like the myth that Orson Welles adapted War of the Worlds for radio in the 30s or in the 40s, and people listening to it in the United States thought it was real.
Oh, no.
And it was like chaos. People like thought the world was being invaded by Martians. That's not true.
Oh.
Or it's an exaggeration.
Okay.
But anytime, like if you mention the War of the Worlds to like a good number of people, they're going to go, oh, Like, did you know that in the 40s when that was on the radio, people really thought we were being invaded? It's just
it's
thing.
Like folklore.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
Urban legends.
Exactly.
Like it just gets, yeah.
And that's, so in my opinion, the idea of that in real life is more interesting than the story, The Possessed. But I wouldn't be thinking about it right now without the story, The Possessed.
Right.
So I dig it.
That's like when I first heard about the movie, The Blair Witch Project. I thought it was true.
I think a lot of people did. That was the gimmick.
No, I don't know. I feel like I was like watching like an entertainment show and they were like, oh, and this movie's coming up. And I was like, holy shit, that is so creepy. And then I was like, oh, it's not true. Okay.
So this is
still a little bit creepy.
Okay, this is probably another example. I bet you anything that, because when I think about the Blair Witch Project and when that movie came out,
yeah,
the whole thing about it was just so terrifying because people thought it was real. Because it's the first found footage movie. So you would be tricked.
Yes. But I knew when I watched it that it wasn't real.
But the point I'm trying to make is that I bet the chaos that I remember that movie causing was probably not chaotic at all. And it was just little anecdotes that added up to everyone who saw that movie thought it was real and was terrified and ran out of the theater screaming.
Yeah.
You know, it's this thing that builds up like a cultural, it's like a myth that can't be broken or something.
It's also another example of that is that movie, The Fourth Kind.
Yes.
Like, did any of us, when we watched that, know that that wasn't real? Because we watched this movie in like a large group on vacation. And then we were all like, oh my God, this is so creepy and crazy. And then I was literally like texting Meg about it. And she was like, oh yeah. And like, I totally thought it was real while I was watching it. And I was like, wait, what? Hold on.
Yeah. Cause it says in the beginning of the movie, it's like, this is a movie of mixed real footage and actors.
And Mila Jovovich is like, hello, I'm Mila Jovovich.
Yes.
I'll be playing the part of this person. And then I was like, that's not real. Oh my God.
I totally thought it was real though. Even like when the lady gets like possessed by the alien, she's like floating. She goes, I am God. I was like,
God, that movie's scary.
I was just like, this shit's real.
Well, that's the crazy part about it. And then it is very weird.
We shouldn't have spoiled it.
None of us like researched it, like that nobody went home and was like,
well, this was,
let's look this up.
This was at a time, we must remember, where not everyone had smartphones.
Yeah.
So like, you couldn't easily look it up. Not only that, we were on vacation and basically,
we probably didn't have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, there probably wasn't Wi-Fi. So,
but then it was. I remember that moment of me being like, "Oh, okay, it's not real. That's so crazy."
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, the movie's very effective if you think it's real.
Yeah, it's
or maybe
really
if
good.
you're, I don't know, not gullible. Totally, you should check out The Fourth Kind, even though now you know it's not real.
I'm sure a lot of people went into that movie knowing it wasn't real. Maybe not a lot. I'm sure some people went into that movie knowing it wasn't real.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, that's an interesting thing to think about is like how scary. Like, okay, if you watch that movie and you think it's real, like real to what extent? Like real to like those, like thinking that it was real footage. So then, but those could have been actors, you know, like think it's real, but to what extent?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a cool thing to think about.
Yeah.
That movie's really good. I would watch it. It's super creepy.
Yeah. I haven't seen it since that first time, but that was just like the perfect environment to watch it in. We were like up north in the woods, totally dark, bunch of people like, and watching a scary ass movie that we were under the impression was like real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did we even like function after that?
I would
have thought there was like a alien around every corner.
Dude, remember too, that was when we put all the couches like a movie theater.
Yes. And then the
spider came
down. That was
down.
the craziest thing ever. I tell people that story all the time. So we were sitting at in the cottage that we go to in the summer. It's like one big room. And so we set up the couches like a movie theater. And I remember Jared was in on a couch in front of me. And all of a sudden, I see him start like backing up, like climbing up the back of the couch. And I was like, what is happening? It was like really scary. And it was because a spider had come down on its like string from the ceiling. And like you were trying to back away from it.
Well, it's because it was like an optical illusion because it's a completely dark room and there's one lit up square, which is the television. Right. So I'm looking at the television, which is like 10 feet away from me. So I'm focusing on something far away. And then all of a sudden this blurry little thing, like less than a foot in front of my face is there. So I was like, my brain had to catch up. Like there's something really close to my eyes. So then once I like adjusted my eyes and I saw it was a spider, I was like, get me, like this thing is so close to me.
Right.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
And then you can imagine like the other people who are like already all tensed up because we're watching a scary movie, like seeing one of the people watching it with us, like doing something weird.
Yeah.
It just like freaked everybody out.
Yeah. It was
and just
sketch.
Forever adds to that experience of watching that movie, which I don't know how many more stories we have to get through, but like it, like even like with Day of the Dead, even though I didn't think that movie was scary.
Let's get into Day of the Dead.
So like, as I was sitting here watching that movie and I was like, you know, I was kind of like, oh, this is going to be scary. Like the outside door of my apartment, it was so weird. It like opened like a person was coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And I like heard that noise and I was like, oh yeah. But then like no one did anything. Like there were no footsteps going up the stairs or anything. And I was like, okay, that was so creepy. But like, I was like, maybe it was just creepy because I'm watching a creepy movie. And so I'm like all freaked out.
Okay.
You know?
All right. Heather, who would you rather spend a relaxing weekend with? Captain Rhodes, Bub.
Who is Captain Rhodes?
Captain Rhodes is the main asshole who yells every single one of his lines.
Yeah.
Him, Bub, Dr. Frankenstein, or the one doing his very best John Goodman impression.
John Goodman impression? Who was doing that?
The other guy who yells all the time. With the glasses.
To be completely honest with you, the most stable person in that group is probably Bub.
Yup. Okay, seriously, I want to talk about this movie, dude. Like, I think that movie is amazing.
Okay.
I mean,
well, can I ask
just
a question
because
about
of how
it?
just because of how like unexpected it is, how it's not a zombie movie.
Yeah.
You know?
So here's my question about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I've necessarily seen the other like of the Dead movies.
You and I watched Dawn of the Dead together and we made fun of it.
Okay.
Remember? Peter.
But are they all connected?
Yeah. It's the same zombie apocalypse, but it's not like the same characters. Like none of the movies share characters.
Okay, so in this movie, just watching it alone,
yeah,
I was like, I don't know what happened. If I had watched the ones before it, would I have known like how this started and everything? Okay, so do you just ever know that?
It is alluded to in the first one that it's like spaceborne, that it comes from space.
Oh, okay.
But it's not even. That's never confirmed.
Okay.
But well, I guess I could have prefaced Day of the Dead before. Even it's the third in a trilogy. But you like all you really have to know, and I guess I could have told you, is that it's really far. Like it's far beyond the day that zombies rose. Because as Dr. Frankenstein points out multiple times, living humans are outnumbered by zombies at this point. He even says that in one of his things. He goes, what are you going to do? Shoot them all? The time to do that was past. Like you could have shot them all back when there weren't that many, but now we are the minority, and you cannot shoot them all to get rid of them. You don't have enough bullets.
They don't have enough bullets. And then when they kill someone, they shoot them like 100 times. So it's like, we don't have enough bullets. Well, now I know why. Yeah, it's like you said. I mean, it's so funny because when you said to me, it's like overacting. Literally in my notes, I was like, why is everyone yelling?
Dude, they just scream their fucking lines.
Yeah, they act crazy.
Yeah.
Which,
well, wouldn't you be fucking crazy?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was just gonna say.
They're living underground, and I love to, dude. I love in that movie how it starts right in the middle of the shit.
Well, it does, and I guess that's why I was asking that question, because I was like, okay, are all of the of the dead movies related? And then I was like, do we know what happened? I also don't think it fully. Why is Bub how he is?
I think that. So that's the thing too, man. There are no heroes in that movie. That no one is good.
Yeah.
Maybe the girl is good. I don't know, but because I think what you're supposed to think in the beginning is that the army guys are assholes and they need to just let Dr. Frankenstein, what's his name? I can't remember his name.
I don't remember. I think I probably referred to him as Dr. Frankenstein.
Let's just call him that. They should just let Dr. Frankenstein do what he needs to do and he will figure something out.
But Dr. Frankenstein seems crazy.
Exactly. So and I think that the idea is that Bub is supposed to be your evidence that Dr. Frankenstein is actually onto something, that you can domesticate one zombie and it would take probably a really long time. So the idea is as a viewer, you're like, oh, this guy's onto something. Bub knows where to put the phone. He knows how to hold the gun. He knows how to salute. He's remembering his old life, that maybe they could be domesticated. But the idea, I think, but no, Dr. Frankenstein is fucking crazy. And he has no respect for human life.
Right.
Like humans that are alive. And that, yeah, okay, you can domesticate one zombie over weeks and weeks and weeks to the point where it's as smart as a toddler, but that's not going to solve the problem.
No, it's not at all, and especially if they have to still eat flesh.
Yeah. Look, I want you to give this movie the Solaris treatment, Heather, unless you just don't have any interest in doing that.
What are you talking about?
Just what, tell me about it. What'd you think? What's it about?
So
what was cool? What wasn't cool?
So here's a little thing to know. I don't like scary movie. Well, I shouldn't say that.
Wait, hold it really quick. If you're listening, we're talking about Day of the Dead.
1985?
From 1985.
Yeah.
Which is the third film in the George A. Romero of the Dead series about zombies, which starts with Night of the Living Dead, then it's Dawn of the Dead, and then it went to Day of the Dead.
Okay. So I was a little bit oh, really? You're going to make me watch a scary movie? It's not that I don't like scary movies. It's that I'm too scared by scary movies. But this movie is not scary. I don't think old scary movies are very scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say that because, I'm sure there are some that are very scary. But this movie isn't really all that scary. And what were you going to say?
It's not. It's barely even a zombie movie.
Yeah. You know what I would say this movie is more than scary? It's kind of gross. It's gory.
True.
Especially at the end.
Dude.
It's
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
That movie has one of the greatest disturbing gore shots, in my opinion, ever.
Well, so one thing I will say about the movie, and I felt this way right from the beginning, is this may be the wrong term, but just the production design of it, the set of it, was very cool, and the makeup and the prosthetics was very, very cool.
Yeah. And
I was looking the guy up who did it, and he also worked on The Walking Dead, which I've never watched, but it's obviously really popular.
Right.
And he's a teacher now, so he teaches other people how to do that.
Nice.
But one of the things that I think is so great about those kinds of effects, instead of doing CGI or whatever, is that they hold up.
Oh, yeah.
So, if this movie had special effects from 1985, then I'd be watching it and being like, oh my gosh, this looks so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the makeup and the prosthetics and everything, they totally still look awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one thing that I really liked about the movie.
Especially, I just want to point out, especially the title card. Do you remember when it says Day of the Dead?
Yes.
That zombie is probably one of the best looking zombies. Like the whole bottom jaw isn't there.
Even in that scene, there's like an alligator. Just like
random.
Walking around. But it's not that random.
Oh, yeah, because it's Florida.
Right, because it's Florida. And if people were not around
to fight back nature.
Right, then like alligators probably would be walking around.
Yeah, and there's
street.
Probably dead bodies all over that town.
Right.
To attract the predators.
That alligator looked like he'd been eaten pretty well.
Yeah, right.
Or maybe it was a crocodile. Actually, I don't know what it was. But the movie definitely made me like think about some things. Like I was thinking, I think she was an anthropologist.
I don't even know what her job is.
So, but if you think about it, like who would study zombies? Like somebody who studies like viruses.
Yes.
Would probably study them. But maybe an anthropologist, like studying behavior. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. Like it made me think about it. Like who would be studying them? Who would be the expert? Like, I don't know what Dr. Frankenstein was.
Me either.
What kind of I'm assuming he really was a doctor. No, he talks about it at a certain point. He said his father made a lot of money because he did something. And he said that he wouldn't make any money because he was purely research. So he's like a doctor who does a lot of research.
I think probably it's got to be about the brain, because there's then one other guy mentions that you could reverse them through some really long and complicated surgery. So maybe that's what he was doing before he decided, no, we can't do the surgery. We have to do the domestication.
Yeah. And he must have like studied brains.
Yeah,
maybe
this
he was
is
like
all
a neuro
speculation. Like, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, but so the movie starts with this cool scene, and they're like flying over. They're looking for other people.
Yeah,
and then the woman, of course, is like, "We gotta land," and the guy's like, the helicopter pilot is like, "Okay, but I'm taking off, and if you're not on the helicopter, I'm leaving without you."
Yeah.
So you already get this sense that it's like every man for himself.
Yeah. And
like,
you also,
because of what's happening.
Also, it's like definitely a sense in the film of like hopelessness, in that
oh yeah, for sure,
they don't find anyone ever.
Right.
It's only ever the main core of people.
And then there's like they go out and two people get off the helicopter. The woman, and is it maybe Miguel, who's like just a loose cannon.
Yes.
Miguel is not doing well.
Nope.
And you're worried about Miguel the whole time, and then he really like fulfills what you've been worrying about by the end of the movie.
Certainly.
Miguel is a big problem. So they get off, and like then the zombies are sort of like coming towards them. So they decide to go back to like base or whatever. And then there's a whole scene where the helicopter pilot's like, "We got to fill up the helicopter with gas." And she's like, "We can't, because the zombies get really excited when we're out here doing things." So that at some point later on in the movie, someone's going to need to take off in that helicopter, and it's not going to have any gas in it. So then they go, but like when they get there, you can see a fence, and there's like zombies on the other side of it, and they just don't seem dangerous. Okay. Like it looks very much like you could just go over there with a gun.
Well, you could, but you don't have enough bullets.
And shoot them.
Yeah, but you don't have enough bullets.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I guess. Do you? Okay. So anyway,
she says that every time you do stuff up there, more come.
Yeah.
And then, you're skipping what, in my opinion, is a pretty important part.
What?
That she looks over into their cemetery and sees a brand new grave.
Yeah.
That clearly somebody died just while they were gone, in the short amount of time that they were gone.
Why did that guy die? So then anyway, they go down, they're like, okay, there's a new grave, and they're like, Major Cooper died.
And so they also mention that the burying people is also what makes them excited. So I think that's why there's more zombies like around the fence. They
really shouldn't be burying people. Why can't the zombies get in that fence? I don't understand like what zombies can and cannot do. Because if you think about it, so like later, so they go down in this bunker, this like underground bunker, and there's military people down there, and there's like 12 people total or something. There's not very many people.
Yep.
And so they immediately have to go do something that's dangerous. And what they do is they go like corral up a couple of zombies.
Yep.
So to me, it just doesn't make sense. Like when there's like a fence, there's like another fence down there, and they go and they like call the zombies, and then they come, walking out of the darkness, and then they have like basically it's like maybe like the thing that you catch like a stray dog with.
Yeah.
So it like tightens around their neck and it's on a stick to keep you safe,
right. Exactly.
which is exactly why you do it with a dog that you don't know, so they can't bite you.
Right.
So they bring them into like a little pen area, and the zombies are all freaked out and scared. And to me, it just doesn't make sense that they would be scared.
Are they
like
scared?
I don't know. They're reacting to it.
Yeah,
they're like
they
in the little
eat.
pen, and they're just like,
They want those to eat those humans.
I got the idea that they didn't want to be kept in that little pen.
They probably don't.
And they were like, oh, they don't come as quickly because they know what Dr. Frankenstein's doing to them, which I don't think that they could know that, because if all the zombies that they bring in are dying, how is word getting out to the other zombies? How could they know what this doctor is doing?
Well, I think maybe, first of all, like, we don't know what happened in the days, weeks, months that led up to when the movie starts. I mean, one of the points of the movie eventually is that zombies do learn. That's like the point.
Right.
That they do learn, and they...
Well, and so I guess that's why I'm sort of having this question, is like, where does that start and stop? Like, if they can't figure out how to get over a fence, like get by a fence.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that it just doesn't, like, what they can and cannot do is purely driving the story, which is fine.
Yeah.
But it's like purely just to move the story along in the way that they want it to move along.
I think the line that he says, the John Goodman impression guy, where he says like they're afraid of, I think that the point of that line is to implant in your brain, as someone who doesn't, as a viewer, as someone who doesn't think a zombie can learn, that, oh, wait, this movie's about zombies that could potentially learn. Yeah. Like I think that's supposed to kind of get in your head early on to get you used to the idea that, oh, for the first time ever, we're going to show you zombies that can eventually gain at least a little bit of intelligence. Yeah. And be trained like a dog. Right. Well, and so they like catch these zombies. And of course, there's a big fight about who's going to go up there and hold the thing that catches them. And Miguel does it. And Miguel's just losing it. Yeah. Miguel's not in a good state. And so then I think he drop it, and the zombie almost kills somebody. Remember? You almost got Rickles killed. Oh, jeez. You almost killed Rickles. And then, you have this, then the next scene where the woman, you find out that they're like sleeping together, and she's giving him drugs, and he's like, I don't want to be doped up. And he's like freaking out. It's pretty good at performance, dude. Like when she has the needle and he takes it from her and throws it. Yeah. Dude, that guy's losing it. So that's like a scene right there. There's just, or a series of scenes right there where people are just like mad at each other and not working together in any way. Like they're not cooperating in any way. And then I think, she goes in, and then you're like, ooh, what's this mad scientist doing? He was very much the mad scientist. He had the crazy hair. Dr. Frankenstein, he had all that tape on his glasses. Yeah. Like he was so consumed in his work. Right. And so then you find out what he's doing is like kind of questionable, because you're skipping so much though, dude. What? Like you have to realize that there's major tension. But that doesn't happen until after. I thought she went and saw the Dr. Frankenstein first, because I think it's important that you see that the doctor is a little crazy. Because
I think if you didn't,
I don't think you see the doctor before she meets with Rhodes.
Did. And like she went in there, and yes, that is when, because she sees Major Cooper's things. She sees his uniform.
That's before you ever see Rhodes?
I'm pretty sure. Because then they have like a meeting later on. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Because she goes in and she's like, I gave Miguel a sedative. He's not going to come to the meeting. And then I think then she goes and sees the doctor.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. She meets Rhodes first and then goes to see the doctor.
I thought you were talking about the really crazy scene where everybody's like holding a gun at each other. Like that's later on.
Yeah, that's the meeting that the doctor's supposed to show up at 7. I remember, and he's late.
Okay. And I forgot about that little scene where you actually like first see him.
Yeah. So another thing that's important is that and you learn through the dialogue and the people screaming at each other that this is a science expedition.
Right.
Like the Army guys are only there to protect, to provide security for people who are carrying out potentially world-saving scientific experiments.
Yeah.
And so it's just very clear that Cooper, I would assume, is the leader who was holding all these idiots together.
Right.
In a efficient, like, let's actually get some work done and cooperate type of way. But I think that's one of the really good parts of the movie is that you never meet Cooper and you never know what it was like before he was around.
No.
But you get the distinct feeling and information relayed to you via dialogue that Cooper was a good dude.
I don't know if he was a good dude, because I feel like at one point the other
little
scientist... Oh, absolutely, because he was like, man, I thought Cooper was bad, but this new guy is like awful.
Right.
So I mean, you just, there's a lot of tension.
Yeah.
In that group of people. I'm trying to think of like what else, like if I wrote anything, and they're all like living down there, and seemed like I would not feel safe being down there.
No.
Like I would definitely not feel safe because there are zombies like chained up.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't make me feel safe.
Well, I opened this conversation with who would you rather hang out with, like stuck in a room, fucking Rhodes or a zombie? Dude,
well, I wouldn't
probably
feel safe
a zombie.
with any of them.
Rhodes is a fucking psychopath.
Yeah, he really is. But
that performance, dude, I just
really crazy.
He's that actor. I've never seen him in anything else, and that performance is just like amazing. And actually, after I watched it, I watched this. It was like a 30-year reunion thing.
Oh,
2015. It was like Comic-Con type thing. It was
a
panel of everyone.
Yeah.
And the guy who plays Rhodes, he goes, George A. Romero just said, chew up as much fucking scenery as you possibly can.
Huh.
So, like, I almost feel like George A. Romero, the director and writer, maybe even wanted more crazy from that actor. You know what I mean?
Like that actor is kind of, like he's kind of good looking. Like I wonder what else he was in. Because he almost looks like he could play.
Yeah,
like
he looks
could be like leading man.
Exactly. Yeah, but I don't know. I just love that performance. Like, because I hate the character.
Right.
But the performance is so good.
But they all are yelling. It's a little distracting because they're just all like, everyone is just freaking out all the time. And it's like, and then this meeting that we're talking about. So they have this meeting to like talk about how things are going to go going forward now that Cooper's gone. And the woman, there's only one woman. And so she's a scientist. So she gets up to leave. I think she's like, I don't want to listen. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm going to leave. And he's like, sit down or I'm going. No, he says, sit down or I'm going to have this guy shoot you.
Right.
And it's like he almost shoots her. And then I think, doesn't somebody else then they're going to shoot somebody else. I don't know. She finally does sit down. And then like later on, she's like, he wouldn't do it, would he? And the other guys are like, no, he wouldn't. He's going to make somebody else do it. But like, you're very much in danger of getting shot by this man.
Yeah. And it's very important too. And I love just this dynamic, and it's good that someone says it via dialogue to really make you understand that, like, the only black character is the pilot of the helicopter, and he goes, listen, Sarah, he's not going to shoot me because I'm the only one who can fly.
Right.
He's not going to shoot this other guy because he's the only one who knows how to operate the radio and knows about technology. He's not going to shoot Dr. Frankenstein because Dr. Frankenstein can talk circles around him. But the rest of you better watch your back.
Yeah.
And I love how that doctor, he goes, I mean, physically watch yourselves.
Yeah.
He's like, you're going to get killed. Like, these people are crazy.
That the helicopter pilot like gave a big speech at one point that I feel really bad saying this. I couldn't really understand it. And I was like, I feel like
accent?
this is, yeah.
All right.
And I was like, I feel like this is important and this could be like giving me some information, but I'm having a really hard time understanding this guy.
I think the important thing with his character is just that you know what his outlook is, which he states in the very beginning of the movie, which is like, why don't we all just go to an island somewhere and live? And someone goes, with all this happening, you could really just go and do that? And he goes, even if this wasn't happening, I would go and do that.
Right.
And I think that is just it's a great sums up his character, or just like a point of view that some people would have in a zombie apocalypse.
Well, yeah. And then like at one point she's talking to him and she's like, you guys like don't help at all. Like him and the radio guy.
Yeah, that is
she's
a little
like,
weird.
You don't help at all. But it's also like there's maybe like sides to it and they're just staying neutral. Like I'm not on the side of the military. I'm not on the side of the science. I'm just here to do my job.
He states straight up. He's like, I don't agree with what you're doing here.
Yeah.
And what I like it kind of does leave you maybe wanting answers, but I really like how it's so unclear how they all even ended up there.
Yeah.
Like it because they talk about how there's people in Washington,
yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like they talk about maybe they don't even know if that's true anymore. So it's like, how long have you been here in Florida, and where did you come from?
Right. Well, it's like I think it's about being realistic and holding on to hope, like because I think it's the scientist that says like, oh, there's people in Washington, and one of the military guys is like, no, there's not. Like,
right.
Why are you thinking that? But so anyway, so. So Dr. Frankenstein has this one guy that he calls Bub.
Yeah.
Which I think is where he talks about his father because he named him after his father or something. People called his father Bub.
Okay.
So he's got this guy Bub, which I will say that I think that the makeup was not as good on like this zombie who is kind of domesticated.
Well, that's so that the performance can come through.
Well, right. Yeah. And I did notice in the beginning when in the opening credits it said like so and so as Bub.
Yeah.
So obviously, you know, it's an interesting performance. Like it's a good performance because you have to do everything through your actions.
Right.
You know, he's not talking or doing things like that, and you know his mouth is all weird, and you have to hold yourself a certain way. Like it is a cool performance.
Yeah, I agree.
I actually loved all the zombies, and I loved like looking at them. There was like a ballerina, there was a bride, there was a clown.
Yeah.
There was a clown zombie, and you saw him a couple times, and he was creepy.
Yep.
And you're like, but it's like what people would have been doing anything when they were made into a zombie. So it was just kind of cool. Like I almost thought that would be a fun thing to do, to go back and watch only the scenes with the zombie crowds and be like, oh, what did I not notice? You know, that I saw this time.
Remember the opening credits of Zombieland?
Oh, I mean,
it's like that Metallica song, and it's slow motion.
Oh, I haven't
just
seen
like
that movie
people,
in so long.
It's that opening scene is the best part of the movie. It's a good movie, but like that opening scene is amazing.
But so they just go on like this for a while. They have this, they're all fighting, and then they have Bub. And so the two scientists are like intrigued by what's happening with Bub. But I think they also are like, you're a little bit crazy.
Yes.
Like you're losing it a little bit. This is maybe not great.
So I think it's important to point out the order, like we were discussing earlier, because what it does is she defends Dr. Frankenstein. Before you meet Dr. Frankenstein, she defends him and his work to Rhodes, to the army guy. So implanted in your mind as someone who's never seen Dr. Frankenstein, you must think, like, we should be on his side.
Right.
And then as soon as she gets in the room with him and they're alone, she instantly starts going in on him like, listen, dude, we have to show them results.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you doing?
She also is, I think, a little freaked out and feels like there is some ethical issues with what he's doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he's got, like, brains all hooked up to things and so what does he say? He says they have no internal organs and they still need to eat. Like, he's like, there's nothing that eating is going to accomplish, but they still have this, like, need to eat. Like, he's like, I've ripped all this zombie's organs out. Anything that would be needing nourishment.
Right.
And yet it still needs to feed.
Yep.
So I think she's kind of looking at them like, ooh, I don't know. This is not ethical. Like, this is not a good thing that you're doing. You're going too far.
Yeah. And probably the most disturbing one, I think, is the one that's like a full body, but it has no head, but the brain stem is sticking out of the neck, and there's a brain, and it's still alive.
Yeah.
And it's just,
Well, and
it's
the
gross.
other thing I should say when I was saying, like, what the doctor looks like, he's also covered in blood. Like, so it's just, and he seems so unconcerned by all of it.
Yeah.
So, and then you find out that, like, the helicopter pilot and the radio guy are, like, living, they have, like, built a little house for themselves, like, down in the bunker, and they've, like, made it look like a little paradise, and it's like, you know, you definitely get the sense that, they're just kind of, like, there to do their jobs. But so I'm like trying to think of the timeline of things in the movie. But so you have Bub, and I think at one point the military guys come in and they're like, you know, they're of course like, what are you doing with this guy? Like, what's going on? And then
wait, that's one important thing to point out is that, as I said earlier, that the doctor can talk circles around Rhodes. So that is demonstrated in one scene, the same almost shooting people scene. How he comes in late. Remember?
Oh,
and Rhodes is like, I told you to get here at 7 p.m. That's literally what he sounds like. I told you to get here. And the doctor's like, sorry, I was busy.
I know. He's like, I need some food. I was told there'd be food here.
Yeah. But so then like, it's when Rhodes is like, you know what? Fuck this science stuff. We're going to get on a helicopter and we're going to get the hell out of here. And Dr. Frankenstein's, and where will you go? He's like, you can't kill them all. Like, so I like that, how the doctor really can talk circles around these military guys.
Right.
Like, and then even, I think it's cool too, because what I love about that movie, and I think I'm realizing it now, is that it's possible to sympathize with both sides.
Yeah.
It really is. The army guys are such assholes, and no respectable person should act like that.
Right.
But then you learn that Dr. Frankenstein is actually not doing good things or beneficial things.
Right.
That he's a little bit crazy. But so I like when he's like, well, what's the alternative? Like, we find an alternative, and Rhodes is like, well, what are you talking about? He goes, we could domesticate them. And he's like, what do you mean? Or he's like, what do you mean make them behave? And it's like, you as the audience, even though you think that guy's an asshole, you know he's an asshole, you are also like, yeah, dude, what do you mean?
Right.
Like, if we're here risking our necks to save your little science experiment, like, what? We need to know what you're doing.
Right.
So why don't you tell us?
But I also don't, like, I just don't trust the doctor. And, like, I don't trust Bub. Like, you can have that guy read books and, you know, salute and hold a gun and all of this stuff. But I wouldn't trust him.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. The only one who does trust him is Dr. Frankenstein. Yeah,
and but Bub also has, like, he likes Dr. Frankenstein because, remember,
later
what happens
when he sees him shot up
Yeah.
Oh, it's brutal, dude. If Bub, doesn't he cry?
Well, I think so. And
he
so
freaks out.
So it's like you have to think that there is also some like loyalty in this domestication. And then what does that mean? Because if they're loyal to some crazy scientists, then he could just be like, oh, go kill these people.
Ooh.
So I don't...
You just wrote it a dope dusk
like with an
of
army.
the dead.
Yeah. A scientist with an army of zombies. That's probably a thing. I probably didn't just make that up.
There is Army of the Dead is coming out in May, and I cannot wait. It's directed by Zack Snyder.
Oh.
And I think it's all Vegas. Zombies in Las Vegas. Dave Bautista is in it.
Well, having an army that's already dead is just like, it's like really puts you at an advantage.
True.
It's also interesting though, like with zombies, because every time I guess so. If you get bit by a zombie, you turn into a zombie. Is that the general? Thing here?
The thing. It's a little weird because I feel like I feel like Day of the Dead at one point or another like contradicts itself with those rules. I think it does.
But is that kind of like, oh,
well, the idea is that if you're bitten by a zombie, when you die, you become a zombie. But if you if you die from normal causes, you don't become a zombie. But that doesn't make sense because I'm pretty sure. I feel like at one point in one of these movies, they come like things that are already dead come out of the grave.
Well, so it's interesting too to have a like an army that grows, like as the army that they're battling gets smaller,
right?
Theirs gets bigger.
It's pretty badass.
It's like, I mean, that's like just horrible. That's awful.
Yeah.
And it makes it like pretty hard to win against them.
Exactly.
But so all this like crazy stuff is happening. Then it's like it's definitely one of those movies where once it starts to go downhill, it's like real fast. It just goes very poorly.
Yeah.
And you made me watch another movie with an arm cutting off scene.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so it's I don't know what happens. One of the zombies gets through their little neck thing.
Yeah.
And
the second time it's not his fault.
Yeah, and so it like bites a guy in the neck, and then I think that guy kills himself, which goes along with what you're saying.
Yes,
he doesn't want to turn into a zombie, I guess. Or
but
maybe
he got bit, so he would turn into one. That's when I think maybe that's where it got confusing.
Yeah, and
but
then
anyway,
you've got Miguel, who gets bit in the arm.
Yep.
So then the woman is like, "Oh my God, we got to save him!" So she cuts off his arm. And I felt like that, like when she was cutting off the arm, she was just like,
oh yeah,
like she had this like big knife, and she was just
machete.
This is kind of difficult. Like I gotta just get through this, and which I thought was interesting because I do feel like in most movies it probably would have just been like a clean chop, like phew, and your arm is gone. And this one, it was like, this is difficult. And then she's like, we gotta burn it, and so I guess they like cauterize it or something. And meanwhile, I don't know what they gave Miguel, but he like sleeps through all of this. So then they're like, and you have like the helicopter pilot, the radio guy, the woman, and Sarah, I think is her name, and Miguel. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got the four of them. So they're like, we got to go get medicine. They want to get morphine for him. Okay. So they're like, okay, two of us are going to go do that. And then somebody stays here with Miguel. First of all, I would not have stayed there with Miguel. I never would have.
Which one of them stays?
I think it's the helicopter pilot.
Okay.
So he's so like chill.
Oh,
he's
very
like,
chill.
I'll stay here with him. So I never would have stayed. So then they go to the lab.
Yep.
To get morphine. And I think once they get there, they just see more evidence that like Dr. Frankenstein is like not doing good things.
Yeah. So it's revealed that he's not.
I skipped over a main thing.
That the graves, the little cemetery that they have, the bodies in those graves are not the bodies of the people. They're the bodies of zombies.
Right.
And that the dead people are being used as food and like training purposes.
Yes, I skipped over that because they find Dr. Frankenstein feeding.
Yes.
Feeding
a
Bub
soldier
and then Rhodes kills him.
Right.
Shoots him like 100 times, even though they don't have a lot of bullets. It's just overdoing it.
Look at Rhodes. He's a fucking psycho. Like, what's he going to do? Shoot one bullet? No way.
They're not,
Well, plus that was from anger. I mean, I don't feel that anger, but if you're a soldier and your fellow soldier, like you find out that, your fallen brothers are being used for this horrible thing.
It's awful. It's like Dr. Frankenstein's not doing good things. He's not a good guy. He's losing it. He may have been a good guy, but he's like too into his work. He's like identifying more with the zombies than he is with like real people at this point. So I don't remember why, but they leave Miguel. Somehow Miguel ends up by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sarah and the radio guy get kidnapped. Oh, I think that's what happens. That's how Miguel gets left by himself, because they take them like hostage or whatever.
Right.
And then they go back to where the helicopter pilot and Miguel are, and the helicopter pilot like tries to shoot the military guys who are holding them hostage, but it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So then they're like, okay, the military guys are like, okay, we're going to put you guys in this little corral thing so the zombies can eat you.
Yep.
And
which is so dumb, dude. It's just kill them.
Yeah, I know.
Like, what
it's
do you
really
think's
stupid.
gonna happen, dude?
Yeah, and they're just going to turn into more zombies. Like, you're making it worse for yourselves.
Yeah.
So Miguel gets left by himself, which is important because then, I don't know why, because he's crazy, I guess, Miguel goes onto the elevator and goes up out of the bunker first he breaks the elevator so it cannot be operated from inside.
Yeah.
Then he goes up the elevator and I don't know, lets all the zombies
and then he lowers the
come
elevator.
at him, and then he lowers the elevator. And it's kind of cool when the military guys are like, what the heck? Like, what's that noise? Oh, it's the elevator. And you're just like, this is bad. This is like really, really bad.
Yep.
But you also kind of don't care because they suck.
Right.
So like you've got the scientists, the group of scientists like running through the dark underground where there are zombies. So that's like kind of crazy.
Yep.
And then you've got just like this, and the elevator is like humongous. It looks like it's for like a vehicle.
Yeah, like a plane or a helicopter or something.
So it's huge.
There's that amazing shot of it lowering with all the zombies.
Yes.
Ugh.
And then I think Miguel is like one of the first ones that you see in a series of just like people laying there and zombies just like ripping them apart to the point where I was like, this is gross. Like,
dude, okay,
we have to see this so much.
Hold on, we have to talk
which
about,
one are you talking about,
dude?
Which one?
When the guy is getting his head removed, and screaming, and then at the moment where that separates, the pitch of his voice goes wicked high.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Oh, it's like what when you watch, you're like, that was so effective and you did it so well, but why did you need to do that to me?
It's like when I say they're being ripped apart, I'm not exaggerating. They are literally, the zombies are just like ripping them open.
And that's the thing that's a little like, it's cool to be able to watch the effects, but also while you're watching, like these zombies, it's like, are those humans made of like wet paper?
Yeah, I know.
Like they get pulled apart so easily.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like that part went on a little long. I mean, I also think it's sort of the point. Like, it's just this insane, like, feast of zombies.
So I think, the point, what I want to say about that is just that, like, so I saw this movie the first time when I was younger and I was in my zombie phase. Okay. So if you're in your zombie phase and you watch a movie like Day of the Dead, you're going to be disappointed.
Oh, because you don't get real zombie action.
So what
the end.
I think the ending is like basically the filmmakers saying, we know you came for zombies, so we're gonna, but we wanted to make a isolated sci-fi movie, so we're just gonna shove all the ridiculous zombie shit at the end.
Yeah, it's like a lot of it. It's very long.
And the only problem I have with it is that I think a lot of the deaths are just very similar. where like
that's what I'm saying.
The person just lays there, and just gets
screams,
torn apart.
But that's what I'm saying. Like it's just a lot of like that, and there's a lot of like, just if you're easily grossed out, like just don't watch this movie,
or just turn it off like right when the door, when the thing lowers.
Yeah, like I honestly found myself being a little bit just like, ugh, like ew, this is like a little too like, not that it's real looking, but it's just like. It's very well done of people like biting into flesh and stuff. It's just like gross. It's like, it's not even like the ripping apart. It's like the eating of it. I don't know. It's just, it kind of grossed me out, which proves like it's well done. But yeah, the scene when they come down in the elevator, that part is really cool. But so like eventually the people that ran into the little like underground place where all the zombies are, the like main characters, I guess you could say. So they have to climb a ladder because the elevator, there's like another elevator that doesn't work or something.
Yep.
So they climb a ladder and they end up on the surface, up, above ground. And they're like, okay, we got to go to the helicopter. And then the guy's like, you should have let me fill it up with gas the other night. And you're just like, oh my God, you're right. And then the ending is weird to me. Because it's like
she just has a dream.
But what? But it's like, so they get into the helicopter and they're like, oh my God, we got to fill it up with gas. Get in the helicopter. And like, there's a scene. The scene is like, it's a jump scare. And it's like someone in the helicopter like reaches for her. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, and like wakes up and she's on an island. And like the helicopter pilot and the radio guy are like fishing.
Yeah.
And then doesn't it end?
Well, yeah. I think that the idea is that they escaped. They went to his tropical island.
Right.
And she's still traumatized by it. I mean, wouldn't you be?
Yes.
And she's traumatized anyway because the movie opens with a dream jump scare from her. And then it closes with it.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh, and then it kind of goes back to that because she has a calendar.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, and in the beginning, she's
hate that
staring
opening
at the
scene.
calendar.
I
probably would have been scared by it more if you hadn't told me about it.
Well, it's just like...
You told me there was a jump scare, and then I was like, what's going to happen? And then all these arms come shooting through a wall, and I probably would have been really startled.
Well, I just think that it's unnecessary, and I think that it's there because of like what I just said, is that when you go to that movie, you expect a zombie movie.
But I also think it's kind of cool to start a movie with like a jump scare.
Yeah, I'm just saying like it's there. It's like when an action movie starts with an action scene, and then has like a long scene, no action. It's so that you get what you came for, and then you sit through like the story, and then you get more of what you came for.
Yeah,
but I don't know, like
But I mean, so the movie was like fine. I mean, it was like entertaining to watch. I mean, I wouldn't say that I really like loved it. But it did kind of make me wonder about zombies too. And like, and I mean, one of the questions that I asked you and wrote in my notes was like, why did we watch this again? Like for this particular thing. But it's kind of interesting because when I was looking up zombies online and I was reading this one thing, which I think this is really cool, like ancient Greeks, like as far back as like ancient Greeks, they've dug up graves that have skeletons with rocks or heavy objects on top of them, which implies that they were afraid of corpses coming back to life.
Oh, wow.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
But so then zombies have a big history in like Haitian Creole culture.
Yes.
And so, and that's from a long time ago, like possibly the 17th century, it said. But so that's magic. That's like zombies. Like that's like people are brought back from the dead through magic.
Okay.
And then I was reading that more modern day depictions of zombies, it's more like science fiction related stuff.
Right, right.
So I thought that was just kind of funny because here I was being like, zombies, what do they have to do with anything? But I mean, it is technically science fiction.
Yeah, because zombies are fake. So if you write a zombie story, you could just say they came from space and that's sci-fi,
right?
Or you could say that it's some horror thing. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like, well,
or like it's like a virus or something. Like that's more science fiction.
In the George A. Romero trilogy, and like he's like he is that series of movies is the basically created the modern zombie. Mm-hmm. Like Night of the Living Dead is like the OG zombie movie. So in that world, they shamble, they're slow, as you saw, and they are dead.
Okay.
And the only way to kill them is by destroying the brain or removing the head. So so the idea, like you were saying, like how you explained what Dr. Frankenstein explains, how they, even if they don't have a stomach, they still want to eat.
Yeah.
If you cut off a zombie's head, because the brain is still there, the head will still be alive and will still try to eat.
God.
But the body won't be. So that's the idea, is you have to shoot them in the head.
Yeah.
So, but then that whole thing got mixed up when 28 Days Later came along and introduced the fast zombies who are not dead, they're alive. So you could technically kill a zombie in 28 Days Later the same way you would kill any human. You don't have to shoot them in the head.
Huh.
But a staple in zombie movies is that you only kill them by shooting them in the head.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if someone said to me, how would you kill a zombie? Like, as far back as I've known what a zombie is, I'd be like, oh, you have to shoot it in the head.
Nice.
I honestly, I just feel like that is very known.
Yeah.
And who knows where I learned that, but I feel like it's like, I just would like...
Yeah.
That's how I'd say you'd kill them.
Exactly.
So who knows where I picked up that information, but yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like if you asked anybody that, how do you kill a zombie? Oh, you got to shoot them in the head or cut their head off, I guess. I don't know if I knew about the cutting the head off thing.
Yeah, I think it's said in one of the movies by removing the head or destroying the brain.
I would prefer to shoot them because getting close enough to someone to have to cut off their head is too risky for me.
Yeah.
And also, if you cut things off the way that this lady had to cut off Miguel's arm, I'd be like struggling a lot.
Definitely.
With how to cut that head off.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to have to do that.
So, yeah, I just think that movie is more sci-fi than zombie movie. Personally, that's what I think. Because, and honestly, like, again, it's a zombie movie, but it goes from, for my personal preferences, it goes from really awesome and I'm glued to the screen to once that thing lowers and the zombies come in, then my brain like a little bit kind of just checks out. Guys, I'm still enjoying what I'm watching and I want to see the end of these characters, but I'm just not like, and it surprises me like how engaging these characters screaming at each other is. Like, and maybe it's not quite as engaging to other people as it is to me, but I just find, and that is sci-fi. That's like post-apocalyptic,
right?
People at each other's throats. Like, that's sci-fi.
But also in terms of it being like a horror or a thriller or whatever you'd want to call it, like that movie does a good job of building tension.
Yes.
Because you do spend a lot of the movie just being like, I don't necessarily know exactly how this is going to, like, what's going to happen. Like, I had a feeling there was going to be like a big scene with zombies,
Right.
But you also like don't trust any of those people.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that the movie, it doesn't really get to do this, but it brings up, like, made me think of like, if you did domesticate zombies, like, would you then start to feel bad? Like, that's not a good thing to do, because would you start to be like, oh, I don't want to kill this zombie because it's being kind of nice and normal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's like a really interesting concept also.
Yeah.
With that. But there's a lot of tension. So I do feel like when the part happens at the end, you're just like, oh, yeah, okay, this is crazy. But like sort of building up to it, you're like, I don't trust these people. I don't know what's going to happen.
And if you hate the soldiers enough, then those gory deaths will probably be slightly satisfying.
Yeah.
Because it really is just a string of just like all these characters that you really didn't like the whole movie. Let's watch them die.
Oh, and it's like the thing that's awful about that part is like all of their attempts. You're just like, dude, this is not going to help. It's like anything they attempt to do.
Yeah.
You just know it's going to do nothing.
But it's also because like it's just sometimes the way it's filmed, it's like, dude, you are not trying hard enough. You could be trying way harder than that.
Well,
the guy who gets his head ripped off, he jumps over. He's like above the zombies, like on these wooden, like a stack of wood, like running.
Yeah.
And then he like falls and turns, and all of a sudden he's just being torn apart. It's like not. It just doesn't seem like, dude, you're moving really fast and they're zombies and they're slow. Like, I don't think they would catch you that quickly.
Yeah. Well, that is the thing about zombies, is that they are slow. So you're kind of like, it seems like it would be pretty easy to outrun them. But maybe that's also part of them being down underground, because you're going to end up
nowhere
being
to run.
trapped.
Right.
And like at one point, one of them like can't get through a door, the soldier, so he shoots it. And I was like, this is the kind of movie where I feel like I did like talk to the screen. Like I was like, don't shoot it. Now it's not going to close.
Nice.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then when they killed Rhodes, he was like yelling something. What was he saying? I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I don't know either.
He kept yelling something, but I couldn't tell what it was.
I feel like I used to know.
I feel like next time I watch this movie, I should do it with like closed captioning.
Yeah, right.
So that I can be like, what are they saying? But yeah.
Imagine it like includes captions for Bub.
Yeah, what did he just like moan?
Doesn't he say like hello at one point?
Maybe, I don't know.
Pretty sure he does.
Is Bub the one who first... Bub and Rhodes like have a moment at the end. Does he kill him? No, he doesn't. Does he shoot him?
Shoots him.
Yeah, he shoots him.
Yeah.
Because they know that Bub knows how to use a gun.
Yeah, they do demonstrate that.
And
earlier.
he's like... But they give him a gun without bullets in it. But then... Oh, and I think he says, like, Dr. Frankenstein is like, oh, he saluted you, so he must have, like, been in the army.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, oh,
and Rhodes is like, you want me to salute that pile of pus? It's like, Rhodes, chill out, dude.
Yeah, Rhodes does need to chill out.
He's such a creep, but it's a good performance.
Yeah. It was good. I mean, it was a cool movie to watch.
Word. Next time I'll let you pick the movies. I feel like I chose some, like, I don't know. Like,
it's a thing that I do all the time now, is like look up movies to watch.
Really?
For this.
Well, when you find good ones, tell me. So, you want to know why? We're going to wrap this up, but I want to tell you quickly why I watched The Flight of the Navigator.
Oh, yeah.
It's because I was curious about that. The actor who plays Dr. Frankenstein, his name is Richard Liberty.
Okay.
And I looked him up. And that he was mostly a TV actor, but he was in that movie, Flight of the Navigator. So I clicked on that, and I was like, "Oh, it's a sci-fi movie, straight up sci-fi." And then I was like, "Oh, it's Disney, so that means I can watch it for free on Disney Plus." So that's why I watched it. He's not in it a lot, but I remember when I saw him, I was like, "That's why I watched this movie." But it's so inconsequential, and I'm actually kind of invested now, so I'm just going to watch the movie. But yeah. So that's it. The second collection of short stories. So, can you remember the stories you read from the first collection? Do you remember liking?
I feel like I like those ones better.
I think I did too. Except for The Forgotten Enemy, I think I liked most of Expedition Earth more than Reach for Tomorrow.
I honestly feel like I got more out of the stories from before. Like these ones, I kind of just... I was like having a little bit of a hard time remembering them.
You did. Well, plus you read a longer one, remember? Remember we talked a lot about Breaking Strain?
Yeah.
Like that's just like a great story. And it's long enough that that it's like can be fully developed.
Yeah, I think I just got more out of those stories and I liked them more.
I think I agree. The only ones that like I'm totally glad that I'm like, I mean, I'd probably read them before, but the two that you can't live without ACC short stories would be The Fires Within and The Forgotten Enemy. For me personally, from Reach for Tomorrow.
Yeah. I from these. Oh,
your favorite was The Awakening?
I did like The Awakening. Yeah. But I don't know, like none of these really made me like think as much as the other ones.
Okay. That's all right.
I think that's part of it. So I like the other ones better.
It's a lighter collection. But anyway, so that wraps up episode 10. We determined earlier. Hopefully that stays
Hopefully that's
true.
Right, yeah.
Next episode is The Deep Range, which is another Clarke novel. So this little collection of short stories is sandwiched in between two novels. Last week we did The City and the Stars. Next week we're doing The Deep Range, which is a one of only 2 Arthur C. Clarke sci-fi novels that are not about space.
Oh.
It's about the ocean.
So cool.
Yeah. So that's going to be fun. I am 50 pages into it right now. As of recording this episode, I'm 50 pages into the Deep Range, and I think so far in this, my current consumption of Clarke, it's my favorite.
Ooh.
It's a very good setup, and the main character is very interesting and also mysterious.
Oh.
I've already read the novel, so I know what the mystery is, but reading it again, it's so cool to read all the, like, what all these other characters think is going on with him. And for me, like I know, and it's just cool to do that. And when I read this story, I remember reading it back in the day, and now I picture Tom Cruise as the main character.
Oh.
I think it would make a really good movie, and I think he would be a good main character. Although he's a little bit too old. But that's okay.
Yeah. Tom's
anyway,
getting up there.
It's okay. I mean, he looks like 40.
Yeah.
But, so, that wraps it up. You should totally leave me a 5-star review if you feel like it. Leave me a written review if you feel like. I do have some 5-star reviews. I don't have any written reviews except for the one that I left for myself.
What is this Facebook group that you went on to?
It's just called Arthur C. Clarke. Amy actually found it.
Oh, okay.
And, like, told me to join it. So, I bet if you just search Arthur C. Clarke on Facebook, you would find, it's just a Facebook group of just people who love Arthur C. Clarke. There's only like 1,700 people in it.
Okay.
And people just post like cool stuff about Clarke, and like we all just talk about Arthur C. Clarke. And
that's cool.
Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram at the Space Dreamers. DM me there if you want to talk about sci-fi. I guess that's it. Please join me next time. We are creeping up on 3 hours here.
Oh, jeez.
So what we need to do is end this recording and record some fake ads that I hope my listeners are enjoying. Because otherwise, what's the point of doing them? And this time, all 4 ads, Heather, are things that I took from short stories. So maybe you'll recognize some of them. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us. And please join me again next time. If you haven't listened to old episodes, go back and listen to those. Blah, blah, blah. Space Dreamers Podcast all day, day. Give it a sign off, Heather.
Oh, okay. Bye. Watch out for zombies.
Yes. Thank you. And scream all your lines.
This has been a Sue Madre production. See you next time.